This computer. All right. Welcome to another episode. I'm done counting this shit. It's just a new Gnarcast. Now we got one more brother in arms. We got Patrick here.
Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
Hello.
Joining in. And excited to have you, man. This is going to be super fun. Hope to do a lot of these. I know Nick and Jason, I had a blast with the other one that we did. So we hope to do numerous.
I would give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
The last one, yeah.
Around there.
It was about 4 hours long. Then we ended up talking about another 4 hours after the episode.
We went to work.
But yeah, this is a good one. This is life-changing albums. And so we decided to choose 5 each rather than our 10 because we don't want to be here until next Tuesday. Even though we easily could have chosen fucking 25 each. Because it was kind of it's really hard to pare it down to just 5. And I know, Jason, yours is actually in chronological order.
Yes, it is.
So we're going to start.
We're going to do it backwards. We're going to be like Mork.
We're gonna be like
Mork
machine.
and Mindy. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So mine aren't mine aren't top 5. They're just 5 of the ones that jumped out to me. They're not ranked. They're not chronological. I just went through my collection and just pulled out 5 that jumped out to me that matter to me most, or matter to me at all. Yeah, because there's about 100 I could have put in there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
I tried to pare it down. It took a while, especially when I got to my 5th one, because mine aren't in chronological either. They're just, when I was looking through my shit, it was just kind of like, okay, this one, there were like little inflection points in my listening, that I went, all right, that one I can definitely put that in there because I know it changed things. But then after doing that, looking back through, it was like, holy shit, there's like 28 more I could put in there. But
that's what she said.
Yeah, I mean, I even like cut out a whole section kind of my life where there would have been definite big ones. So they kind of went into the honorable mentions, and that's because they were
and
they were maybe more common albums or that kind of thing that a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, definitely that album. But so I just
for my list, I didn't. I started once I got was full going into metal. So I didn't do anything for my teenage years, like when I was 12 or whatever. So this is after I discovered Iron Maiden and started getting more into the hardcore stuff.
Very cool. But yeah, we can jump right into it. We'll start with Pat. We'll just kind of give one, then we'll go to Nick, Jason, then me. And we kind of did the same thing that we did that Nick, Jason, and I did with the last episode, is we gave each other one album. So this time it was 3 albums that each of us had to listen to, recommended by each other. And we're going to save those for the last one and then kind of shoot the shit about those a little bit. But we can jump right into it. Start with Patrick.
All right. I'm going back to 1997. I was thinking about this, and I think kind of my listening, I was, looking back at it, I was listening to a lot of shitty metal kind of at that time. Things were kind of in a rut. All the classic bands were not.
The late 90s? What?
We're not. Yeah, well, no, but I was listening to, Propane, Machine Head, Maiden and Priest were shells of their former selves. And part of that, where I was living in Seattle, had fewer friends around that were still into metal. So, reading magazines and that kind of thing was all I really had. But I had a friend that I grew up with that was living in Minneapolis, and he kept telling me, man, there's this Seattle band you've got to check out. He kept telling me, they're awesome. And I'd read something, I think it was maybe from the drummer, that said, yeah, we sound like Motorhead meets the MC5 on speed. And I was like, oh yeah. And I'd realized I'd actually seen this band a couple years earlier at a local show, but the album was Zeke Kicked in the Teeth. It's shorter than Rain and Blood. It's 17 songs in 21 minutes. So they hit it hard and fast, and they even have a couple 3-minute songs on that record. But kind of what was life-changing about it to me was it got me reinvigorated in live shows, because they were always playing in Seattle. So I could get back. It got me thinking, like, I need to get back out, going to more local shows and not just wait for certain bands to come through. So that got me on that train. So that led me into a whole nother realm of like the Catheters, Load Levelers, Murder City Devils, Hog Molly, which was Tad's band after Tad, or maybe even Tad was still in existence, I think. I'm not sure. Valentine Killers, that kind of thing. But just kind of the ferocity of that album got me reinvigorated in more of the hardcore punk kind of sound. It was on Epitaph Records, which I thought was odd, because nothing like Bad Religion, or, I don't even know, I guess like The Offspring might have been on that. But the main part about it was it got me then into those bands like REO Speed Dealer, checking out the Hookers, those kind of bands. But none of those bands, to my mind, were of the level of Zeke, because they were just dirty, fast, hard. The vocals, the lineup on this album to me is the best Zeke lineup. They've had, a lot of different people come and go over the years, but the Abe Riggs, Blind Marky Felchtone, Donnie Paycheck, and Mark Pierce on bass, that was their culmination of, when they were perfect. And to me, this is the perfect Zeke album. I did like the way they went metallically a little bit more when Jeff Matz joined, and they got a little more maybe technical, or a little, like I said, more metallic, lost a little bit of the dirty punk edge. But this album, this is it for me. And from this album, I worked my way back, and then from there on, worked forward with anytime Zeke were to come out with an album. Obviously got it. They had a long hiatus, came out with one a couple years ago. It was all right, but nothing like this album. And like I said, the main thing with this album was it just got me back into going into like a small, dirty, sweaty club, watching a band, and like headlining set would be like 40 minutes long, but it seemed like they played forever because they played a shitload of songs in that short amount of time.
They played 38 songs in 40 minutes.
Well, I saw them once. I got into the later stuff first and then went back, especially with Relapse kind of reissued a couple.
Yeah, they reissued Flat Tracker and Super Sound Racing. And because those were already up in the hundreds of dollars. I remember used to get them in the bins for $5, the originals. And then and my favorite album of theirs is, oh my God, I was like trying to look while you're talking. It's Death Alley. It was a Death Alley. Death Alley, yeah. That album's, and I know what you're talking about, that they went a little more metallic, and it was almost like till the living end, especially. There's like, they've got a whole Sabbathy song on there. I think that's Jeff Matz, but they all liked it. They all liked metal stuff too, because I remember one of the times I saw him, I got teased briefly because Donnie Paycheck, the drummer, like between songs, he just went genocide, and I thought they were going to cover, he was doing it from Unleashed in the East, and I think they maybe did a riff and then stopped, but that was it.
Yeah, they opened for I saw them open for Motorhead, and it was Motorhead, then COC. Well, it was Zeke, COC, then Motorhead. I was telling you guys before, there's one band that opened up. I think it was Brand New Sin or something. I can't remember, and they were kind of forgettable. But Zeke was, I mean, they just like blew the roof off. And when they ended, whatever their set was, I know what you mean. Like, it was probably just a 20-minute set, 30-minute set, but it felt like an hour because the energy was so nuts. And it was just, the sound was perfect, but it was like a freight train coming at you. But then when they ended,
they probably ripped the drums down, and
they did that kind of, typical rock and roll ending, but it was for like 10 minutes.
Shaking maracas there, those maracas,
and they're just kind of ending the song. But it was like, and then he would 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
and then go right back into the song. But it happened for like 10, 15 minutes, and people were just going, like at the end, they were just like, what the fuck is going on, dude? Are these guys done? And they kept going, all right, thank you. Then they would do it again. And it was awesome. I kicked myself in the ass for not getting any merch from that show, but I ended up getting kicked in the teeth later because, like I said, I started out. I don't have the newest one.
Oh, Hellbender. Yeah.
Yeah, but that band is like caustic as hell. If you just want loud, filthy, dirty rock and roll, you're not getting the Helicopters, which I love. This is something this is pure American.
That's funny because of Zeke, I was like, I need to get into the Helicopters. I went out and bought 3 albums, hated them, mailed them to my buddy in Minneapolis, the guy that.
Yeah, I'm a big Helicopters, but the Helicopters are more like the Stooges and Kids,
Right. Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. And yeah,
There's something I'd probably dig now, but at the time I was like, no,
no,
not for me, not for me, because they were coming, I think, too. They were playing, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get these. I'm gonna buy these 3 albums, check them out. I may go to this show and listen to them. I was like, I don't know the hype. It's not Zeke. It's not right in your face, down your throat.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great pick.
All right. Also 1997. Look at that. So again, like I said, I'm going after I became or declared myself as a metalhead. I don't know if you ever declare yourself as one, but once you figured out you were one, you know, fell in love with Maiden and stuff. And I hadn't really listened to any really extreme metal yet, but I did listen to other extreme music, just, you know, like pretty hardcore punk and like the straight edge hardcore music. So I was really used to like the harsh vocals, and just the aggressiveness of music, but not necessarily in a metal situation. So I was like 18 or something, or like 18, 19. And I grew up in this podunk small ass town in California. I don't know. So my buddy somehow like had the finger on the pulse because before internet was really prevalent. And I get in the back of his shitty like Toyota Celica or something. And he puts this album on, and it just starts off with this black metal, like just yell, and right, and just pounding drums with synthesizers, and just freaking blew my mind because I've never heard anything like that at all. Just like it gave me chills within just 10 seconds of listening to it. It was just so freaking rad. It's not my favorite album by them, but it's to me, it's just a life-changing album because it pretty much introduced me to what we know as black metal these days, and that is Old Man Child, the Pagan Prosperity, right here. Back when Century Media had a black metal label, Century Black.
Century Black.
You still have the Firestarter? Do you still have the Firestarter comp with the match in it?
I did have that, but I lost that somewhere at one of my moves, sadly. But it was just a game changer album because it just opened my ears to like whatever that is. I want more of it, you know. And I know it's pretty corny, especially when you go out like what they've done now, and Galder going into Doom and Bergera and all that stuff. Not a flawless album, but it was just when we're going through my list, I have to put that on there because I had no idea this kind of shit existed until I got the back of my buddy Celica, and he puts it on and starts off with that first song, the Millennium King. Just the album just starts off with Galder, yeah, just right into going at it.
It's playing in my head right now. You're talking about it, and I can.
Yeah. And then and it has the symphonic elements, a little keyboard going in there, but nothing too jerk off keyboardy, but just like nice layers and whatnot. And my brother and I always get a kick out of this because this is one thing we noticed when we first listened to this. The members are Galder, Jardar, Gonde, and then Tony. They have these 3 like pseudo stage names, and then Tony on drums.
Sounds like a Star Wars cast.
No.
Yeah, Nick, that's like I told you earlier, that was one of those bands that like I totally wrote them off just by looking at them in Pit magazine, I think it was, seeing how they looked. And I mean, I have them on some comps from Pit, and then they got to be on that Firestarter, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And I went like this. I checked out the album then, and I was like, yeah, this isn't bad. You know, I totally, I'm gonna look into them a bit further now.
Yeah. So I mean, not my favorite by them, but definitely just very, very important to me. Jason, I know that they mean a lot to you too.
What is your favorite by them?
I like the Revelation 666.
Okay, because I know Born of the Flickering's a little different.
Yeah.
Than Pagan Prosperity. That's the first one I heard because I had a friend. He was like, "Dude, you gotta if you like classic, straightforward metal, I really think you'll like this Old Man's Child." And yeah, as soon as I heard that, I was just like, I ate it up. I was like,
Yeah.
I gotta find more shit like this. And I think wasn't Gene Hoglan on one album?
On the one following up, Ill-Natured Spiritual Invasion.
Yeah, and I did see Dimmu a couple times. The last time I saw him, Galder was with him, and when he was playing, he was bobbing his head the whole time. And
He's all corny now. Yeah,
it was people were like, "Why?" It's supposed to be like black metal, like kind of they're acting evil. Then this dude's on the side of the stage smiling and bobbing his head like he was in the Beatles or something.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say though, speaking of my favorite album, Revelation 666, that's also Galder's favorite album. This was maybe 10 years ago, so maybe not anymore. But back then in an interview, he said, "That's my favorite album by them because it's the most satanic." So there you go.
Nice.
Larson.
That would be me.
Yeah.
Gosh, well, my first life-changing album here is kind of directly influenced because of Patrick. My first trip to Prague Power Atlanta I think it was 2007, and I met all the guys from the Brave Board, and Patrick had this band shirt on, and he's like, "Yeah, you should take a listen to them. I think you'd dig them." And of course, you nod your head and you say, "Oh yeah, sure." And then you go home, and everybody knows my my ho hum poor marriage of a story. But it's probably around 2011, 2012. The marriage is about to end, and I remember sitting.
This isn't Dr. Phil, Jason.
I know. Huh? I remember sitting at my son's hockey practice, and I took a listen to this one certain song from the band, and it just that was the moment. It was like, holy shit, Pat was right. These guys are extremely cool, and they're known as a stoner rock band, but I don't know. I guess I'm kind of new to this genre because I always thought I kind of equated stoner rock to like doom rock, like slow and sludgy. And this song is not slow. And the name of the song is California Crossing. And it has just a killer snare drum intro at the beginning, and then it just goes right into some guitars, just straightforward rock and roll. Dug it immediately, and then I kind of set it to the side. I didn't do anything with it, and really, I've been listening to this band probably only for the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm all about them now. I mean, I need to see these guys live. They live 45 minutes from me. And the name of the band is Fu Manchu. And the name of the album is California Crossing. The name of the song was California Crossing.
That's what it says on the live album.
I am all about this band right now. Need to see them live.
Do you have the live album? Go for it live.
I do. I bought that. At my son's. There's a record store. My son, by the way, attends UNLV, and there's a record store out in Vegas called Zia Records, and I found Go For It live at Zia Records for like $4.99 used. It's a double CD. I got it for like $5. I remember texting Patrick. I'm like, I got it. I just listened to it, man. From Vegas to LA, just listen to it all the way home.
Dude, that's a perfect drive to listen to Fu Manchu.
So cool. They
Oh,
are,
right.
Yeah.
they are too cool, you know. So my stoner fuzz rock is kind of opening. I've listened to I think they're called the Truck Drivers out of Sweden. Does that
Truck
sound right?
fighters.
Truck Fighters.
Fighters.
Truck
No,
Fighters.
this is gonna freak you out, Jason. No, I'm not even joking. Today I listened to Gravity X by the Truck Fighters. When I was
Yeah.
working.
Yeah. But who else? Caius. I'm aware of
Caius
Caius.
is great.
Yeah, another great band. I'm familiar with Lowrider. Kip has mentioned the Lowrider band.
Man,
But oh man, I mean, but right now, I don't know, maybe it's because it's the first really stoner rock album that I listened to. But man, I am.
Do you have all of them now? Have you been able to get all of them?
I don't have that Down to Earth one, or is it
Return to Earth?
Return to Earth?
That's the one that's getting reissued now with the big shipping prices.
Yeah.
But that's a comp of all early singles and stuff. So yeah, you'll be able to get that in the next couple months on CD for common price.
the next
But yeah, I think I got all of them.
that's the next band you got to start getting into.
Yeah, I listened to some Nebula. Patrick mentioned that because what was the drummer?
Eddie Glass.
Eddie
and
Glass,
Norman
who by the way, Dale let me know, dude, Eddie Glass went to La Mirada, went to the same high school that I did. I'm totally unaware. So there's the huge SoCal connection with those bands. I go to school with Eddie Glass. I think he graduated in '89. So he's a year younger. But yeah, Fu Manchu, man. Love it.
I'm not going to say much because they may pop up later in this episode.
Okay.
Same here. Well, I'll get into. I'm going to go with this one. I was going back to 1996. I moved to Portland, well, to Beaverton, Oregon, and I was going to high school at Aloha High School. And was a real loner, kid from Ohio. All I did was just immerse myself in just metal and heavy metal magazines. And I remember reading a Rip magazine, and I was in school and I was reading Rip, and there was an ad for this album. And I don't know, it just caught my eye and I thought it looked really cool. And I've already loved Typo Negative a lot. And Bloody Kisses was huge for me. So I was like, and it said that this was like Europe's answer to Typo Negative, which isn't necessarily true, but I understand where they came up with that. Especially now when you'll see a sticker on something for fans of At the Gates and In Flames, and it's like whatever. But so I actually I didn't get it there. We ended up moving back to Ohio, and I had this album written down, and I ended up finding it at a local record store. They had it, and I was like, holy shit. And it was still 96. I picked it up, and instantly it was weird because it just, I don't know, man, it just clicked immediately. And that's Moonspell. Got it signed when I saw him on the album after this, was tour after this, the Sin Pecado. This is my original copy. Still have it.
That's Century Black too, isn't it?
No, this is just Century Media.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Back when Century Media didn't fist themselves, now they're just shit label. I can't stand it. But this was and still is everything to me. Century Media then re-released it kind of on a double thing in 2014, I think. 2007. It's 14 years old, but it's a great package. Awesome. It's goth, but it's not corny, cheesy goth. It has heavy vocals. The lead vocalist is just utterly amazing. His clean vocals are great, but his harsher, the growls are just unbelievable. And I've seen this band so many times. I can't even.
I think last time I saw
I
them,
want to hear Nick sing Opium.
Opium,
Opium.
Desire and Veil. When
Yeah.
I saw them last. The singer was just wearing a fishnet T-shirt. It was pretty great.
Yeah. Well, we saw him right after. I saw him earlier, but before I saw him before, then I took my wife, Katie. We went and saw him up. I can't remember who they were playing with.
Catatonia? Was it that Catatonia tour?
No, but I did see him also with
I saw him on
Catatonia.
that. I saw that one.
And that's where I saw Jack Owen and the other guy that passed away that was in Deicide. I can't remember. I can't remember his name now. Guitar player. But yeah, that was Catatonia and Moonspell, that tour. But this tour, it was crazy. They were sitting at the Agora Ballroom, and they were just sitting down at the bar. And I went up and talked to him, and talked to Mike, the drummer, who I think actually he's not in the band anymore. He just recently left, which bums me out because they've been pretty much a solid unit other than the bass player. They've been a solid unit for a hell of a long time. And every album rules. I mean, I have, albums, there's Moonspell shit all over the place. It's like,
It's too bad because they really should have gotten more popular than they ever did. I always felt bad for them. Like they never blew up.
Too much. That's why every album was different. And, if they kept doing Irreligious, they probably would have been fine. But the very next album, I saw them live on that tour, and I was like, it doesn't sound as heavy. And they said, yeah, we wanted it to be heavier, but the way it came out, it wasn't. And then the album after that was, I think it was Butterfly
Effect. Yeah.
And that had songs on it that sound like fucking Marilyn Manson. There were a couple tunes and people were like, what is going on? But then they went back, and the newest album, it took me a little bit to get into it and bust it out here. But it's I ended up really digging it. Jesus Christ, I got way too many Moonspell albums. Really pulling out Hermitage, new drummer. It's actually awesome, and it's probably one of the best of their career. I don't think it's better than Irreligious. Irreligious is every song on it, dude. Full Moon Madness, Mephisto. When he hits those growling vocals, it just, you can feel his spit coming through the speakers. It's like Fernando Ribeiro. His vocals are just so amazing. And I don't know, man.
Now that you say that Type O Negative reference, that kind of pisses me off. It's so, just because the singer has like a
baritone kind of.
Yeah, that's about it. That's the only thing I could think of.
It's stupid, but you know what? It sucked me into it because I'm like, Type O, man. Like, I got to listen to it. And then when I heard it, I was like, okay, first of all, it doesn't sound like fucking Type O at all. Maybe the clean vocals do. It sounds like Peter Steele, but this doesn't sound like Type O Negative whatsoever. But they even toured with them over there. And I think that sometimes, because how do you explain what Moonspell is? It's kind of like if somebody said, what does Moonspell sound like? It's going to be like another band that I have, another album I have. What does this band sound like? It's like, I don't know, like them. I'll get to that later, but you can't really pinpoint. It's got classic metal in it. It's got goth, some black metal, some death. It's all over the place. So I can listen to it no matter what my mood is. I can be listening to fucking Dokken, shit like that, and then bust out this, and it's great. And I used to listen to this back and forth. I would walk back and forth to work when we moved back to Ohio. And anybody that lives in Ohio knows that the wintertime is like frigid as fuck. And I used to walk back and forth to work, and I would have my Walkman at the time, and it was just creepy, and it was like I'd get home late at night. It was like midnight, 1 a.m, and I'm walking in the snow and I'm listening to Irreligious, and I don't know. It was like that whole experience just kind of adds to how awesome that album is. So
Yeah, I discovered them because Century Media released like a comp with like them, The Gathering,
Identity.
Identity. Yeah, and so they had 2 live songs, of Vampiria, and I don't know what the other one was, but yeah, that's how I found out about them. Love them.
Yeah, that was on it's on the Out of the Dark comp.
Yeah, Samael's on it, and yeah,
Rotting Christ. Here it is.
Yeah.
Got it. They put it back out. Yeah, it's Moonspell, The Gathering, Sentence, Rotting Christ, and Crematory, who were never on Intermedia. But yeah. So that's also killer. That's back in the Firestarter days, Patrick. So yeah, excellent album.
Jason, your thoughts on Moonspell?
Yeah, don't know them much.
You could potentially get into these guys.
I think they opened up for Amorphous and Dark Tranquility on their what was I out there? I was out there in 2018 in Anaheim. Yeah, I think.
Could have.
I mean, from what I remember, they weren't bad.
Yes, they did. I remember that. I didn't make it to that tour,
Yeah.
and I've never seen Amorphous or Dark Tranquility, and I love both bands. And I was like, "Holy shit!" And then,
Yeah, that was October of 2018, and yeah, I mean, I was all about Amorphous and that album, and yeah, they opened up, and then Amorphous and Dark Tranquility. It was like a co-headlining tour.
yeah,
So both bands got about 90 minutes, and I had to work the next day. And Amorphous came up first, and I'm like, do I stay for Dark Tranquility? Not really into them. I've heard Damage Done, pretty good album, but then I decided to go home because
You're an old man.
I'm old.
you know what? The guy I saw, Nick, the Catatonia show was Ralph Santola.
Ah, he's dead
That's
too.
right.
Yeah, he also played on Hulk Hogan's album.
Yeah, and I talked to Jack Owen, was Cannibal Corpse, but he was also in Deicide. That Ralph and Jack were in Deicide, and Jack Owen was really nice. And when I say I talked, it was like, "Hey, how you doing? Love your playing, whatever, typical shit." And then Ralph Santola, I said, you played, you did some stuff with, I said, Yorn Land, and he rolled his eyes and went, "It's fucking Jörn Landa," and then just turned around, and I went, "All right." And I just good, whatever. That's all he said to me, Jörn Landa. I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yorn has that effect on people. They just walk away.
You're not a big fan, are you, Pat?
No, I did the same thing. I was like, we were seeing one of the Prog Powers, and then I had bought the Duke. Is that what it's called? The
Yeah.
Yorn. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot because everyone was talking about how great it was. And I was like, yeah, he's a great singer, and it was a decent album. And then 30 minutes before the set, I said, if he comes out on stage with sunglasses on, out of here. He came running out, arms up in the air with sunglasses on. I beelined it back to the hotel and ordered Chinese food. I was like, fuck this. I'm done.
True story.
What's wrong with sunglasses, Patrick?
I have nothing against sunglasses, but I just had this feeling it was going to be this rock star kind of feel or vibe. And that's what it was. And then I was like, I'm not backing down on my word. I'm out of there.
Well,
Yeah, and you guys got to know, at Prog Power, we always used to sit in like these 2 rows. Okay, we'd always get there early, save our seats, and Pat was sitting on the end on the aisle seat. And I remember that the guy came out, and dude, Pat was Usain Bolt, man, right out the door.
Stick to your convictions, man. That's great. Love it.
you're up, Pat.
All right, this is kind of piggybacking off what Jason was saying about having a Southern Cal connection to a band. This was similar for me, but I'm not from Southern California. I grew up in North Dakota where we didn't have much of anything. So I always had this allure of California, Southern California, from like chips and that kind of thing, you know, as a kid, on how Southern California was and this feel and movies and that kind of thing. And also growing up in the 70s, I was like 70s, I guess you'd call it culture or that kind of thing. This was a band that I'd heard of. This is again 1997, same year as Zeke. I'd heard of this band but hadn't heard them. And I went to a show, and it was Corrosion of Conformity and Machine Head, but the opener was a band from Southern California called Fu Manchu, and their live set totally blew me away. They were touring for this album. I don't think it had come out yet. I think it was a month or two away. So I made sure when it came out that I went and bought it, even though I knew they had some other stuff. I wanted this album, and that album is The Action Is Go, Fu Manchu. Just something about it. It got me into kind of whatever, you know, was deemed stoner at that time as well. But everything, the riffs, you know, it had enough metal to it. But then the fuzziness of it, and just, I attribute it to Brad Davis, the bassist, who wasn't on the initial one or two albums. Just the heaviness of his bass, and he uses a little wah, or a lot of wah in there. It just, something about it is perfect for me, that brings something that a metal fan can like, but isn't necessarily a metal band. It's, you know, people were always telling me, check out Caius or whatever, and I never could get into them. And since getting into Fu Manchu with this album back in 97, I've tried to and haven't been able to really get into it. I have the last couple albums, but this then, you know, springboarded me into then as Nebula formed, Lowrider, you know, I had the Lowrider Nebula split, and then that Odio, I got that when it came out. Just this album, to me, it's kind of a coupling of them and their live show. It's, if you see them live, this is close to me as to how they can be live, but their live show is what sells this band for me. And it's something that's from that first show in 97, I've always made it a point, if they're coming around, I don't care if it's 5 hours away in Raleigh, I'm going to it because they're that good live. Mm-hmm. And it just, something about how they've maintained that Southern Cal, like, to me, they sound to me what Southern California is, and I don't even fucking know Southern California. I've been to the Bay Area a handful of times, and I've been to the Mojave Desert, but I've never been, you know, I've never spent any time in LA or anything like that. So it's just something about it. Their fast songs to me are my favorites. Always, you know, the title track, Anodizer, Evil Eye on this album. But when they slow it down, Trackside Hoax, and then to me, one of the best Fu Manchu songs, Laser Blast, there's just something about how it rolls that just, I get goosebumps. I mean, my wife, she hates it because if we're driving in the car, anytime Laser Blast comes on, I start going like this, and I hand it over to her, and I'm like, you know, and just like, you know, just because there's something about it, I get goosebumps, and I just, my body mellows, and I'm just like, this is perfect. Only complaint I have on that album is they do an SSD cover, and it closes the album out. It's a great song. It's less than 2 minutes long. It's fast, but the song before it, Saturn 3, to me is the ultimate Fu Manchu song. It's slow, and then it builds at the end, and they play it live at pretty much every time I think I've seen them, they've played it. Mm-hmm. And there's something about it that just, to me, that's the perfect album closer. But then they fucked it up and closed it with a little fast SSD cover. But to me, it got me into that whole, like, finding out what this stoner scene was. You know, that was kind of when I think High on Fire was starting to come out. So it led me in a lot of different directions. And it's, you know, something, I mean, they could put out a keyboard album and I'd probably like it. You know?
Yeah, I agree, man. There's one thing that, first of all, the album is classic, but there's one thing that drew me to it, and it's because
the cover. No, I know what it is. It's because it's got Breeden's, the guy that played with Breeden's favorite horror director, produced it.
Yes, Jay Younger.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, first of all, the cover was awesome, and I was looking on the
That
back.
Tony Alva.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I looked on the back and I went, Jay Younger, holy
White
shit,
Zombie.
White Zombie. So I was like, fucking, I'm buying it.
Mhm.
And it's, dude, Pat, it's weird that it's kind of like when I met Nick and Jason, and you meet somebody and it's like, that there's like this connection, because when you were talking about how you grew up in North Dakota, but everything California, that's how I felt with Ohio and watching like old Clint Eastwood movies and, shit, like everything with California, whether it was San Francisco, the Bay Area, or whether it was Southern California. And when I started listening to stoner rock, and there's a band that got me into it that has nothing to do with California, but that's coming up. But when I started getting into that, and it was like Meteor City Records and the Music Cartel, and this was, you mentioned Lowrider, Ode to Io, life-changing album for me. Jason, they just redid this album, put it out. It's a double disc. You should pick it up. In fact, Blues Funeral, the label that they're on now, is the guy that ran Meteor City Records back in the day. I think his name is Jad Schickler. I think, but Blues Funeral's kind of back, and it's like old school Meteor City, but there were so many bands, Caius and Solace and Solarized, and a lot of Man's Ruin bands.
Ruin, I was gonna say, it was the
yeah, man, so exciting. There's so much shit. And the first time I saw Fu Manchu, I was like, man, I hope it doesn't suck, because I love this band so much. And seeing them probably 3 times, we're going to see them 4, but then stupid COVID shit happened and they keep pushing the tour back. At Jay's, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Scott, and think about this, stoner rock is so unique that there's 2 legends in stoner rock with the same name. Scott Reeder.
Yeah.
Scott Reeder.
Yeah.
And who fucking Caius, bass player, he was in the Obsessed. And then Scott Reeder and Fu Manchu. And real quick story, Pat, you'll like this. I wish my buddy Justin was here, because we saw the show. I think it was the first time we saw Fu Manchu, and there were these 2 dudes, didn't know each other, and they were standing in front of us. And we always go see them. They always play the Grog Shop in Cleveland, which is my favorite venue. It's just a rock and roll bar, and the stage is really low to the ground. I've seen so many bands there: Fu Manchu, St. Vitus, The Obsessed, Nashville Pussy, stuff like that. It's a great venue. But so these guys are standing in front of us. One guy has a Slow Burn shirt on. Remember that band? Mm-hmm. And they're not with each other. And Fu Manchu's playing, and they start, fucking with each other. And then they turn to each other and grab each other by the throat at the same time. And they're fucking they're each going down at the same time. And then they make it to the floor, and then they let go, and they get up, and literally for the rest of the show, Justin and I will do it. Like, especially when we go see Fu Manchu after that, Justin and I will look at each other, because the whole show they just kept going the whole time. And it was so good. And every time we listen to Slow Burn, I'll look over and Justin will just be like, it's like random guys choking each other out. Then the power of Fu Manchu made them friends by the end of the show.
I took my neighbor to see Fu Manchu up in Charlotte. I was like, dude, I think he'd probably already gotten an album by this time, because I'd been talking the shit out of him. It was, God, I can't remember what tour it was, but for his first time seeing him, and it was at this little shitty place in Charlotte that was great for shows. And there was this dude in the crowd that was just super drunk, and he was getting more tanked as the night went on. And, you'd see him try to make it, huh?
I like this guy already.
Yeah. He'd make his way kind of through the crowd, but he would be like hitting people pretty hard just because he could barely walk. So people kept pushing him off. And there was this raggedy ass old couch near the back by the soundboard. And then all of a sudden we heard, like, while the band's playing, we hear this guy yell, and we turn, and there's this Harley looking guy going hey, and he's pointing to security, and the dude is standing on top of the raggedy couch, pissing all over the place. Security grabs the dude, drags his ass out. They had like emergency fire doors right there. They pushed him out the door, and he was gone. No problem. Fu Manchu ends, whatever, half hour, 45 minutes later. We walk out to go to the car. Security had dragged him across the street, and he was laid out like a snow angel, and just rivulets of piss running down the sidewalk. And he was just like trying to get up, but he couldn't. His head just kept bobbing up like this. Scary part is when we went back a few years later to see Creator there, that fucking couch was still there, and he'd been pissing all over it years earlier. And I'm sure he wasn't the first.
God, it's always a good time seeing Fu Manchu live. And I'm making this promise, Jason.
Yeah.
They come back, they're in LA. I will buy a fucking plane ticket and come out there, and we will see Fu Manchu.
Right on.
Because I want to see.
I got 2 guest rooms, man. You can choose.
Totally. I want to come out there to LA and see Fu. That's it.
Nick, if you come out here and see Fu, you can sleep in Keeper's closet.
Keeper's closet.
That's not in his closet. That's his.
No,
that's
his Keeper's master bedroom.
Keeper's his shag wagon right back there.
So we got
it's too good.
Nick.
Well, I'm happy you went with that, Pat, because when you said, you're falling in love with California, I thought you were giving me some like Red Hot Chili Peppers or some bullshit. Like, I had this idea of California and this Red Hot Chili Peppers band. I kept singing about it. So
I think
really
that dude lives in. I think he lives in Portland now, doesn't he? He does.
No,
He does.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick him out then.
He lives in Northeast somewhere.
Really? All right, I'll look into it, and I'll go toilet paper his house tonight. All right. Well, this will be a short segment because no one here likes this band, but being a classically trained musician, this is like my first experience, first introduction to metal that had that neoclassical sound with like the shredding guitars and the keyboards, especially when they use like the harpsichord effect on it. Just listening to like, first time I heard like just maestros playing their freaking instruments, just shredding the shit out of guitar, keyboard, melodic as hell. It just blew my mind that like that kind of musicianship is out there. Because this is 2001 when it came out. Because I was listening to more like, again, more of the uglier black metal at this time, and I was still into power metal. And this band just seemed like Iron Maiden on speed. Like if you took Iron Maiden up the BPM and twice the showmanship of like just technicality and shreddability, it was just a perfect fit for me, especially like studying music in college and whatnot. And I remember the first time I heard this, my brother, when he lived in Portland the first time, he worked at, I don't know if you guys have the stores out there, but it's called the Warehouse. It was like a CD, VHS player.
Yeah.
My brother's working at the Warehouse, and they would get promo albums in. So like, you want to put this on the stereo, or those listening stations to put in. My brother's like, I think I met him there on lunch, and I brought some food, and we had lunch together, like in the employee room. And he puts it on, and then as soon as the after the intro, the first song hit, I'm like, oh my god, what is this? Because it starts off as that typical power metal thing, and then just this guitar solo where he's just shredding, and then he's like doing these like finger bends on the left side over here, and the keyboard follows it in, and the guitars and keyboards. So just like, what the hell is going on? And just most melodic, beautiful, freaking power metal. Still not my favorite album by them, but it introduced me to them and got me into neoclassical shredding power metal from Finland. Sonata Arctica, Silence.
Kidding, I love that album. That album's awesome. That album is awesome.
Yeah. Tony Kakko is his vocals. He writes every single song. It's just a super, super unique band. I know they kind of started off as a Stradivarius ripoff, but I think they found their sound with this album here. It's got some ballads, but I do love the ballads as well. And it holds a special place in my heart, especially because some of the lyrics are like that broken Finnish. Like I see you walking hand in hand with a long-haired drummer of the band. And he was calling his ex-girlfriend a whore. So he says like walking in the cold night air without underwear. It's like I see what you're trying. I see what you're trying to say there, but maybe have someone proficient in English like kind of scan those lyrics once or twice before you submit this, buddy. But yeah, just a beast of an album. Like, and there's a lot of other bands that like I fell in love with that neoclassical power metal because of that. Hearing primetime music, I've been around like a lot of hardcore professional musicians, and I can't even imagine what it would take to be able to like when the guitarist and the keyboardist are doing 16th notes like and the keyboardist is doing it together. It just completely blew my mind of like what metal was capable of. Not aggression, not anger, not demonship, but like a positive, happy band, like singing about love and just other shit. Like I don't know, just completely changed my outlook on metal in general.
Have you seen them live?
About 4 or 5 times, yeah.
Okay. It's funny you mentioned that they kind of started off as like, or maybe people thought they were Stradivarius clone.
Yeah.
I've literally never listened to Sonata Arctica, and I know that you've talked about them, to me from time to time, but back in the day, I was a Stradivarius guy, Visions and Jesus, I can't remember, Eclipse. Those 2 albums I thought were Destiny. Visions and Destiny. Those 2 albums were amazing. So I just never kind of delved more into the power metal thing. There was bands like Labyrinth and stuff like that I dug, but they're still putting albums out, aren't they? Sonata.
Yeah, but after their 4th album, they stopped getting, again, I hate to say it, but again, that boop up, boop up, that drum beat, that power metal drum beat.
Gallop.
They got more. What's that, Patrick?
The Gallop.
Yeah, but just and just they kind of abandoned that sound a little bit, and they're not as virtuosic now. They're more just kind of stripped down, simplified. I still buy every album by them, but the first 5 are they're all just at least a 9 out of 10 for me. They're just amazing.
Very cool.
There you have it.
Very cool. It's all you, Big J.
All righty, we're gonna go back to once again, I guess a prog power influence band. This is my introduction to the harsh vocal, and I remember I heard the name, didn't know any of their material. Our dearly departed Adrian Bromley did visit us one year in Prague Power before he passed, and he was all about this band. Once again, he was like, you should really need to check out this band. And I did when they were there. And didn't care for it at first because he started with his harsh vocals, and I'm like, oh man, I just might need to leave. And then he had his clean vocal. And then he had his black metal vocal, and then he had his death metal vocal, and then he had his clean vocal. And I ended up digging it, bought the album, loved it. Great band. Nick loves them. I think Patrick likes them. I don't think he likes their newer material. Our Middle Eastern metal band, this one.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Orphanland, Mabul.
Oh, God damn, that album's amazing.
Oh,
fuck.
Loved it. Love it. Great album.
That's their peak right there to me.
Yeah.
It's their best album. I do love their newer stuff. I mean, the last 2 have been amazing.
I think the last 2 have been good. They've been good.
They've been good to me. They just seem really kind of bloated almost a little bit. I probably need to spin them a little more, but that album to me was perfect on how they delivered it all, because the first couple albums are more harsh, less clean, and then that was a blend where they were able to pull it off. Plus the sound was just perfect,
Yeah, that was the first time I've heard like that, Middle Eastern Israeli beat, like that 7/8 time signature in metal, because that's popular for heavy for Israeli music. That 7/8 time signature. and hearing that in there, and then with like all the ethnic drums and stringed instruments, freaking amazing. But like, who's the main guitar player on that album? I can't remember his name, but he left
He's got a
after that
solo.
album.
He's got a solo album out.
Yeah, he left after that album. They changed a little bit. They definitely went more clean vocals. I like All Is One. I still think is an amazing album, but that guy kind of left, and they changed their sound for sure after that.
And I think his first name was Yossi.
Yossi,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
Okay. And I took Josh. I think Josh was 10 years old. And I think I took him to a show down in Costa Mesa. It used to be called the Galaxy Theater. And of all the bands, they were the headliner. I think Cephalic Carnage was the opener.
Orphanland? Okay.
And they were nice enough to come out after the show. There's a picture of Josh. It's like 10 years old. Yossi right there. Me, Josh, and Yossi takes a picture with us. Super nice guy. It was for the Never Ending
Warrior. Yeah.
Warrior tour. And Josh loves, and I do too. I think that album is good too.
I remember he used to say he always used to sing that Sapari or whatever.
Somebody used to be somebody. It was, he would always sing it as somebody. And Josh asked Yossi, he's like, well, where's the girl? Why isn't the girl singing with you? And Yossi, looks down at him and he's like, well, she's pregnant right now. She's about to have her first baby. And Josh was like, oh, she's really good.
Did they pipe in the vocals?
No, not that I remember.
That first Prog Power, they had me. I was the mule for. They had the Ararat EP coming out. Profound Lower was putting it out, so Bromley convinced Chris Bruni, who has Profound Lower, to ship the albums to me, so then I could deliver them to the band in Atlanta. So they did the acoustic gig the night before. So then I had this big ass box of 10-inch Ararat vinyl and hand delivered them to Kobe after the show. And that I got paid with a free EP or a free single.
Nice.
Yeah, one of the saddest moments of my life was they played through Portland about 5 years ago, headlining. I think like there were like 18 people in the audience.
Wow.
You guys are gonna kill me. I had that album and I never listened to it.
Which one? Mabul?
Mabul. I had it. I bought it when it came out, and I was just like, it ended up in a pile where I was like, I just never listened to it, and I can't even remember it, really. I don't remember hating it. It was just one of those things that, I have like a stack of shit sitting over here that I'm just like, I never listened to it. But I stopped getting rid of stuff because of shit like this, where it's like somebody down the road will be like, oh, what about this album? And I'm like, holy crap. Yeah, I think I have that now. Let me listen to it. And I'll end up putting it back in my collection. But when I saw it on Jason's list, I was shocked because I do remember the vocals being a little harsh at times. And I really like that. I don't know what that 7/8 beat is. Is it like that dun 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 dun? Is that it, Nick?
1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like the Sapari. It's that.
Yeah, and that's why I love the band. I don't know how you say Melakesh or Melachet, whatever.
Melachi.
Yeah, that kind of that black metal with that like Middle Eastern flair to it.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. So knowing that I love that, I probably should go back and listen to it. And
Good.
definitely will. I'll have it on my list.
Jason, you should check out the Melakesh. It's definitely heavier, but and check out like Emissaries or that kind of thing. Don't go too far back, but I think that will suck you in if you give it a few times.
And for those people that are listening, I'm now at the part of my life where, with all these harsh bands, I'm listening from present to the beginning. I'm going backwards. And like right now with Amorphous, I'm like at Elegy right now. So I need Elegy and then what? Thousand
Tail.
Lakes,
Tails, yeah.
and then Isthmus, Carillion Isthmus.
Wait till you get to that.
I know.
You're gonna be like, wait, this is the same band?
I know. Yeah.
I need to clarify. My 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 adds up to 8 8, but it's 7 8. So it would be 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. That was my bad. Clarification there. Sorry.
Just start dancing around, Kip, and just start throwing dishes and breaking them. You know?
So Orphan Land played live, and they got like protested because they brought out, because they're an Israeli band, and they brought out a chick from Palestine with a Palestinian flag and another person with an Israeli flag dancing together on their stage, and they got like death threats and stuff from that.
Sure.
But that's their whole message, is just like
They're trying to blend everything together, and yeah.
They're trying to unite everybody.
Well, that's the all is one theme.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. All right, Kip. Give us your number. I want your number 2 right now.
Get ready, it's coming. So I'm gonna get this one out of the way, because I doubt the 3 of you even like it. I don't know. So, this is my God, 1992. I was 13, really getting into heavier stuff, especially with MTV. I would just sit up all night with my buddies and we would just watch, whether it was Headbangers Ball or 120 Minutes, Alternative Nation. I can't remember Alternative Nation. I think they were on at that time. And the videos just sucked me in from this band. Vocals are absolutely amazing. In fact, the vocalist is from right down the road. He was from right down the road in Ravenna, Ohio.
Beautiful city.
But everything about this, and also what hooked me into it was I was also at the same time a big fan of, I was getting into Henry Rollins and the Rollins Band. Not so much Black Flag, but it was the Rollins Band with their album End of Silence, and then Wait came out after, but Rollins was on. He does a little spoken word on one of the songs. But then everything about the band was just weird and creepy. I remember buying the album and the fat naked chick holding the skinny guy in the album, and the back of the album, then it has a hidden track. It was eerie to me, but it was like, I'm 12, 13 years old in 1992. And it was just like, I was sucked in instantly. And the album to me is perfect. It's an absolutely classic album. This is one of the bands when people say, what is this band? Oh, what do they sound like? I'm like, I don't know, because they just sound like Tool. And it blew my mind and it changed my life. And everything about it, like, the cow licking its own asshole on the inside. I was just like, dude, what is going on with this band? So fucked up. And then
Kip, how many times did you jerk off to that photo?
Oh, numerous.
Good.
I was pulling out cartilage. I did it so much. This shit in the middle. I was like, what is this? Young kid. And I'm looking at the pictures of the band, and but the musicianship is phenomenal. And Danny Carey on drums is one of the best drummers I've ever seen. I've only seen Tool live once. And that was in 98. It was at Ozfest 98 at the Akron Rubber Bowl, which is, that's where they played.
The Rubber Bowl.
The Rubber Bowl. Yeah. And it's
who's in Akron, like Goodyear. Well, there's like 3 tire companies there.
Yeah,
right?
Firestone. Well, BF Goodrich, Firestone, Goodyear. But it's right by the Goodyear plant. It's right by.
Rubber Bowl.
In fact, we go over there all the time. They shut it down. They're tearing it down, which sucks. But
that you do.
My kids run. My oldest son Wyatt, he does BMX, and the Akron BMX track is right by the Rubber Bowl. And I always look at it and I'm like, oh man, it was such a killer show. But Maynard James Keenan, the vocalist, he came out dressed as a televangelist, and that's how he spoke to people. He came out with like a blonde wig and a suit, and he was like, brothers and sisters, you know, but he never broke character the whole time. He just spoke like that the whole time. And I was just captivated. This is 6 years later, and I was obsessed with anything that was Tool. I think the new album's good. It took me a while to get into it. It's nothing like this. It's nothing like Undertow. Opiate is the one before this that there's some excellent shit on that. And then you got Enema, Lateralis. If there's one 10,000 Days is kind of iffy. There's some good stuff on it, but they don't sound like anybody else. Period. Nobody sounds like Tool. And it gets annoying, you know, people who like real hardcore Tool fans are like these real pretentious. How can you be pretentious when, you know, like a lot of these people are just goofs, you know? And I don't know. I'm not like that into that kind of like fan base, but this album to me is everything about it, man. The videos were fucked up, even on like Enema. I love the videos, all the stop motion shit. Just like I was obsessed with it.
The only video I saw from them was Sober, but that was a fucked up video for sure.
Yeah. But everything.
Yeah, Undertow was great because what was that, 93?
92.
Yeah. So that was like 8th grade for me or something like that. So yeah, that totally, like when that video came out, I bought that album, and same thing. It was just like, I mean, what the hell? Because I was like kind of into, like, I was getting into Primus a little bit, and then some of the heavier stuff like that. So it definitely affected me for sure. That was the only album I've ever heard from them. I've heard a single song besides anything off that album, but I don't know if it holds up because I haven't heard it since probably 95 now, but
it's so great. Awesome. And I played this, you know, my wife and I, we both listened to this stuff back in the day. I mean, we still listen to it now. And, you know, we were playing it for our kids, and we played Sober, and I was like, they both said, man, this is kind of dark. You know, my kids are 8 and 10. They were like, it's a little depressing. I said, you don't get it. This shit used to play on the radio, man. Like, this was big when I was in high school. You know, Nick and I are the same age, but when we were in high school, this was the stuff that was like, I couldn't believe it. It was all over MTV. It was huge. And it was, now you don't have that. And that's why you always try to play this shit for, you know, my kids and be like, it was a completely different vibe. And I think the video I saw was actually the Prison Sex video, and the name of the song. And then the video, I was just like, dude, what is up with this band? But the music was it just didn't sound like anything I've ever heard before. And it's funny, you know, again, there's like little inflection points where there's albums that hit, and then you can just, you know, almost like pinball. It hits you and you go into a different direction. You hit another album and it takes you in a different direction. And this is definitely that one. So
well, it's one of those bands that, like, it's a total metal fans either love Tool or they hate Tool.
Mm-hmm.
And like, or I guess they're kind of indifferent. I guess that would be me, because like people are always like, you don't like Tool? I'm like, you know, I saw those videos and that kind of thing, and it never really grabbed me. It's one of those I could go back and listen to, and I may totally worship it now. My college roommate loved Tool, like that Enema EP. Was that the EP or whatever? He had some EP.
It was after Opiates, the EP.
He had the EP, and he'd play that all the time. And I just remember hearing it, and I was like, it's all right. But, you know, it just wasn't for me at the time. But
what about when what about when your roommate gave you an Enema?
No, he wasn't an Enema kind of guy. He was a OCD guy that would get worked up and duct tape himself to the bunk in a fit of weird rage, and then he would be a sweaty mess, and I'd leave.
I was going to wear my Undertow long sleeve. A buddy of mine gave it to me years later. But, you know, when you get older, and I tried to put it on before, and it was like fucking sausage casing. I was trying to get it on. I was just like, yeah, it ain't going to work.
You were doing your Iggy Pop?
Yeah.
The sausage casing. That's the best thing I've heard in a while. That's so
Dude,
good.
it's great though. It's a great long sleeve. It has like syringes. It just says Tool on the front. It has like awesome artwork. It's really cool, but it's an original from the Undertow era, and it's still mint. My buddy was selling a bunch of shit online on eBay, and it's a long sleeve. And he was like, "I know you like this. I'll just give it to you." A lot of the shirts he was selling, where he was getting like several $100s for them because they were original, like jerseys and shit. And I was like, "Are you serious?" He was like, "Yeah, I'll just give it to you." And I wore it a couple times, then gained weight, and then that was it. Never wore it again. So I was kind of bummed today. I was like, "Oh man, need it to like right here." I should have had like a belly shirt, the gut hanging out. Just Tool.
Sausage Skin Myers.
That should be the name of the podcast. Going to change it.
Sausage casing. So, but yeah, you're up, Pat.
All right, this one came out, got to be 79, but I didn't hear it until 84. Again, it kind of goes back to growing up in North Dakota, and by 84, had deeply shifted into metal and whatever was considered metal at that time. This band, I'd already heard their 1979 album, and I had their 84 album and their previous album, which was 82 or 83. And this got me totally into the idea of concerts, live bands, live shows, and my love of continually buying live albums to this day. And that's Priest, Unleashed in the East. Like I said, I'd had Defenders of the Faith, and this neighbor
is that
kid
still shrink wrapped, Patrick? Is that still shrink wrapped?
Well, no, I bought this recently to have the vinyl because I had the cassette and then the CD and then the remastered deluxe CD.
It looks like it's still got the plastic on it.
No, it's got the plastic on it, but open, but only been spun a couple times. But I just, because it's visually also, part of it is when I see this album cover, when I was getting into metal, that was 84. I was 12. And when I saw this cover, I was like, Maiden covers were metal too. I knew that was discussed like in the first year of Gnarcast, like Live After Death versus Unleashed in the East. But everything about this leather, the lights, the Harley, all that stuff was just like this, and the font, which was on all the Priest albums, but it's like, this is you can't look at this and be like, I wonder what they play. I wonder what they sound like. But,
It's an album cover you can hear.
Yeah. And it's like, and also when I talk about this, I'm being an elitist and I'm saying it's not the reissue with the 4 extra tracks. Those are great to have. But when I hear this album, I cut it off after Tyrant, because it's like, to me, that's where the album ends, because that's the album I grew up with. I like having the bonus stuff, but when the reissue came out, I gave my original CD to my neighbor, and now I don't have the original CD. So I stream it and just cut it off when it kicks into the extra tracks.
Same thing with Live After Death, that the re-release that had Phantom of the Opera and a couple other tracks on it, like 4 extra tracks.
Which one?
Like Live After Death.
Well,
they re-released it. It had Phantom of the Opera, and I can't remember what other 2 or 3 tracks were on it, but I grew up with just the original Live After Death. But they had 2 or 3 or 4 songs, right?
Well, the original Live After Death had the last half of it was Hammersmith songs when it originally came out.
Yeah.
Okay. But the CD didn't have, if I can remember correctly, the CD didn't have, it was just the Long Beach show.
Yeah.
I think minus the long Sanctuary version even. I don't think Sanctuary.
Right, because the very first edition of Live After Death, you can only put it on 1 CD. You can only put 80 minutes of music on it.
Yeah.
So that's why they cut out the tunes.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
this
Pat,
one.
What is that vinyl? What label is that on?
This one.
Was it Columbia?
Epic Legacy.
Okay, Epic Legacy. Okay.
Yeah, so this is one you can buy for under $20 on Amazon.
Cool.
Which for vinyl these days, is like a steal, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
making money by buying this for the 8th time in my life. But it was actually, and what was funny is how I came upon this album was there was a kid down the street that went to the local Catholic school, and they were doing a fundraiser, and they had a little catalog with cassettes you could buy in it. And my mom said, well, why don't you, I'll pay for it, you pick a cassette. And I was like, saw that, and I got this, and I want to think
Awesome.
Crocus Headhunter from the kid for like $4.99, and it was a dirt cheap price. But I mean, I don't know, there's not a lot to say about it other than, to me, the versions on that, you know, I was into the Defenders era Priest, which the 70s era Priest sounds drastically different. I had a copy of Hellbent for Leather when I got this, but to me, the versions on this are superior even to the Sad Wings versions. I mean, I love those versions now, but there's something just a little heavier on this album on how those songs sound, and there's not a crappy track on the album. I know Laterno would say that's because they're cherry picking, but whatever. I mean, you still have deep tracks on this album to me. I mean, Genocide, oh yeah, that's a great Priest hit. No, it's not. It's just a fucking great Priest song.
Mhm.
And it's like, if to me, you hit Green Mantle, the 3 songs in order, Green Manalishi, Diamonds and Rust, and Victim of Changes on this album. There's not a better 3 songs in a row. You listen to those 3, it's like there's nothing on any album beats those 3 in a row to me. It just,
that's the benchmark for Victim of Changes.
Victim of Changes, yeah, that live version.
That's why it's, you hear his vocals on just like a studio album, you're like, can he recreate it? Well, he recreates it, and he absolutely just takes it beyond.
Yeah.
It's
like I said, the thing that was life-changing to this, to me, about this album was, again, in North Dakota, I was 12, shows didn't come around. Priest came around when I was into Priest at this time, but my parents wouldn't let me go. It was the Defenders tour, and it was like, they were like, oh no, it's 100 miles away, and we don't know what all this is about yet. You know, it took them another 6 months to finally let me go to shows. But you know, that's, to me, you know, that was the gateway to hearing what a band was like, and what, you know, hearing the crowd and getting those chills of like, well, what's that like? You know, that feeling of when you're at an actual show and the lights turn off. You know, it still happens to this day. If it's a band I really want to see, you know, boom, the lights go out.
Yeah.
Instant goosebumps. And if there's some little intro music, you know, it's, that album's it for me. It's like, this would fit in life-changing. It would be one of my Desert Island albums. It'd be one of my top albums. It would be something, it's on every list for me.
I'll probably pick that vinyl up, because I have the remaster, but the remaster, I'm not going to get up to get the box. The box I got was different. They released the first 4 albums. This is the European version. And so the cover is embossed.
Yeah.
And then Hellbent for Leather is Killing Machine.
Yeah. The original, or the European issue. Yeah.
Yeah. It's only the first 4. For some reason, they only released that. And then everything else is the regular remasters. But this is, dude, I'm totally with you with live albums, because everything about this is absolutely perfect. And I'm going to give Nick and Jason a heart attack. This is why this album is one of the reasons why I don't think, for me, Maiden will ever top Judas Priest.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I'm a Maiden guy, but like, this would still be my go-to album. I would take Maiden over Priest, but this album is the pinnacle for me.
Yeah, very cool.
All right. Number 3 here for me. This was a blind buy at Second Avenue Records in Portland, like 2003 or something. Again, I was starting to get really into the, I was exploring the shit as much black metal as I could. I wanted it faster, more aggressive. More aggressive, and just more brutal, blah, 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 all that stupid crap when you're 22, whatever, like, go on heavy. I just totally there wasn't a listening station there. I just saw this and I saw the cover. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then I put it on and it was definitely black metal because I already had an album by Abigor. And then I found out these people were in Abigor. And it didn't add up to me because sounds nothing like it. It's more keyboard based than guitar based. There's definitely some guitar going on. There's drums, but it's not a live drummer. It's just two dudes with a keyboard, guitar, and a drum machine. And there's no blast beats. There's no heavy beats. It's all like trial toms. Jump, boom. Like, what the hell is going on here? I had no idea what was going on the first time I listened to it. Like, I don't know what the fuck that was, but I think I maybe liked it. And then started listening more and more. And it's melodic as shit. It's unique as shit. It's dorky as shit. I mean, every single song is about is Tolkien based for the whole 7-8 albums they have. And it starts off with like an orc chant, like Osh, Rosh, Nimbaku. Like those pins come in, dun 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 dun. Like, this is so fucking weird. And it just totally it just opened my mind to metal doesn't need to be heavy, aggressive, like gnarly or whatever. It's just, if you're metal in attitude, you're metal in general, in my opinion. And that would be summoning here. Let Mortal Heroes sing your fame. Jason, you will absolutely fucking hate this. I guarantee you'll hate this. But it's just,
I don't know.
I mean, there's no
His
clean
mind
vocals.
is expanded.
It is, yeah.
The last track,
yeah.
Farewell, is the only song with some clean vocals on it, but it's like this like mushy choir of like men singing. You can't understand a goddamn word, even they're singing in English. And you open it up and like the photos are just like this dude being impaled. That's this guy, and then the other photos is this dude in a fucking wolf mask. It's just like it's. I hate using the term atmospheric metal, whatever, but it literally is the most atmospheric thing. My buddies and I, Castro, one of them, we play, or before COVID, we play Settlers of Catan once a week, and like we only listen to summoning.
Wait.
Settlers of Catan.
You play Catan?
Yeah, Castro and I play Catan. Like, we used to play once a week before, like for like 5 years.
Dude, don't even let Katie hear that, because her and her sister play like the fucking expansion packs and all this.
Oh yeah, I've got the 3D of Catan version where it's like the mountains are actually like, and the sheep actually have like little hand painted clay sheep on them and shit. Over all about it. And so like when you play Catan, listening to summoning, it takes it to a whole new level. Because can I get some wheat for that ore? And just meanwhile summoning just jump synths and just like thinking about, I don't know what the fuck I was really thinking about. It's just a perfect soundtrack for Catan, by the way. So
now, didn't they do, first I didn't know it was dudes from Abigor. I never knew that.
I didn't know that either. Yeah.
And what's the last one they put? Because I remember a buddy of mine got one and it was just all like synth. Isn't there one that's just all synth?
All of their albums are mostly synth, but there's guitar in there. But I don't think they have anything purely synth.
Okay. But that last one, I know.
The one after Old Morning's Dawn, I can't remember off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, Nick, you didn't like that last one either, did you?
It was okay. It was just a little, like, nothing new. It was just kind of like, it seemed like a just
disappointing or not.
They had some riffs like just like laying around, like, oh, the fans want a new album, let's put something out. Like, oh, remember that riff we wrote 15 years ago we didn't like? Yeah, just put that out there. That's what it's kind of felt like to me. But it's still summoning, so it's still good. But that run of Stronghold, this, and then Dull Gold are amazing.
What is that one? That's Let Mortal Heroes.
Let Mortal Heroes Sing Your Fame. One of my best blind buys. Like, again, just walked into secondhand records, because if you've never been there, there's no like, there's not shelves. You have to go to the guy behind the counter. Can I see the metal CDs? And they come out with like these cardboard boxes, and they schlep them up. Like, okay, here we go. Can I get the MA through MI box? Like, okay. And then
the font and the logo had to you knew something was coming.
I had no idea, and I just got it. Speaking of Castro again, one of my favorite Castro stories is I can't remember what show we were going to, and we were going. We met at the right behind the venue, and I'm sitting there with my buddies, and Castro walks up. He's wearing a summoning long sleeve for I think Dull Golder, and I'm wearing a Stronghold summoning long sleeve. So Castro looks at me. We're both wearing summoning long sleeves. He turns around and is like, "Fuck it, I can't wear the same band shirt as you." So he drives home to change, and then comes back.
Oh
It
man.
wasn't even the same album; it was the same band. Castro was like, "Nope, not doing it."
Awesome. That's another band, man. Never heard them.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to it
You've never
later
even
tonight.
heard them?
Like people talk about them for so long, and there's something about a lot of these black metal bands that use nothing but Lord of the Rings imagery, and I always thought that was cool, but I don't know if they were trying, like a lot of bands were trying to be evil, but it's like it's not really evil. But with summoning, they got so much praise, but then I heard stuff that it was like, it's like synth maybe, or there's so it just kind of, that's why I never really gave it the time of day, but I'll definitely check it out now.
Yeah. Listen to just if you want just one song, listen to Land of the Dead. It's not off this album, but that's like if you want summoning in a nutshell, listen to Land of the Dead.
Now, is that your favorite summoning?
This and Stronghold are my two. It's a toss up.
Okay.
Very, very hard to say. But the cool thing is too, they have both the people in it do vocals, and one is definitely more raspy, and one's a little more slushy. So the songs vary, at least vocally.
Okay.
And I don't think I've ever referred to a vocalist as slushy before until just now. But yeah.
Cool.
Nice. My turn.
It's all you.
Piggybacking on the Blind by idea by Nick, I got to go back to this album. Now we got to go back to 1988. I'm a senior in high school, mowing lawns to make money so I can go out and buy CDs, because CDs are a brand new thing and they are smaller than albums and they're better than albums. And it was really usually the last Friday of the month, my younger brother and I, after I got out of, it's late 1988. So I'm at Cal State Fullerton, my first semester. Every Friday, we would gather our money and we would drive around 5 CD stores in Southern California. I'm not kidding you guys, I would put 110 miles on the truck, because there was these chain of stores called Moby Disc. And there were 5 stores around Southern California. I really hope somebody's like listening to this at a later date and remembers Moby Disc. And they had massive used sections. And when you talk about blind buy, you blind bought back then, because you didn't have access to the internet back then, obviously. So
your fingers would always get that dirty kind of dusty smell from going.
Yep. So sometimes you hit it and sometimes you didn't. And this band, I loved the logo, the font, the album cover. It's late 88. And you all know I'm a thrash guy. And thinking about it now, this album, yeah. This album I have listened to the most times in my life.
Is it the Bitter End demos?
No, it is not. It is not.
Or Butter End, I mean?
Butter End. And God, I fell in love with it the first time I heard the first song. This one, I got it on vinyl.
Nice.
And it is Wargasm's Why Play Around.
Did you just pick
that's not the version you bought, right? You didn't buy the record, right? First or
No, I got it on CD also.
Did you just get that vinyl from the
Yeah, I
from the
did
band,
just
right?
get from Wargasm Bandcamp. Friended Bob Mayo on Facebook a little while ago. Great guy. Showed him all my pictures playing songs before classes start, taking the little screenshots. They love that shit. And yeah, just it's a band that I just wished that was one of those thrash bands that I thought was higher tier than what they were given, and love that band.
So they were 54th.
I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Nick. Nick is the official tier level
Tier leveler.
of
I,
thrash metal.
I would put him at 42nd.
42nd.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good because that's Jackie Robinson's number. So
I didn't get that album until 90. It was one of those bands I knew the name, but a dude that I met when I was in the Army was already heavily into the death stuff, all death metal. So he was purging all his thrash stuff. So
oh my god,
for like $2 a piece, I bought like Why Play Around from him. I got the Death Angel
wow.
Kill Is One demo from him. Then he had all these tape trading things of like old Exodus shows from like 83 that he sold me all in that same bundle for like $20. So that's when I had it, and I never upgraded to CD until you posted that about them having all that shit on Bandcamp. So I was like, I really need to get that on disc now, because I'm sure it was out of print or hard to find or whatever,
And really, you guys, I've had to listen to that album 1,000 times. Seriously, just over and over, and it never gets old. Just
I just listened to. I didn't listen to that one the other day. I listened to the Ugly. I listened to that one.
Ugly's good too.
Jason, I've never heard it. Text me a song off of it. I think should.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's funny is Jason's got a couple of these bands that are, that are just a little lesser known of the thrash bands, known within thrash people, but he's like a total town crier for him. Wargasm is his number one, but Cyclone Temple is that other one that you always are like, Cyclone Temple. It's all about Cyclone Temple.
Just a one and done. Well, they had a couple of others. They weren't a one and done, but yeah, that one, I Hate Therefore I Am. That's another great one. Just super clean vocals.
I think Dive Bomb put
Super
that
tight.
out, reissued it.
The Cyclone?
Mm-hmm.
I never saw Wargasm live. I don't ever remember them playing a show in LA, but Cyclone Temple did come one year, and I did see Cyclone Temple live at the old Waters Club in San Pedro.
Wow. Well, my one of my best friends, Arn, that I do other episodes with, he played several years ago when Wargasm was still a band. When they were, it was the same three guys, I would assume.
Yeah, they never changed
in the band, but his band opened up, I think, one show. I think it was in Indiana. I remember he texted me. I was like, dude, fucking Wargasm. We're opening up for Wargasm. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah, man. He was like, I have this shit on tape and I love it. And we're opening. And that was, several years ago. But that was like, I never heard anybody talk about him other than Jason and then, my buddy that played a show with them.
And I learned on the Wargasm Facebook page that the guitar player Rich Spellberg is a producer for Josh Groban. So talk about work security.
Yeah, just earning a paycheck.
Yeah. So that's Bob kind of mentioned, why would Rich try to get the band back together again? Why would we start Wargasm again when he's so secure with that kind of job? And it just makes sense. So I found that little tidbit of information pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Atrophy guys. I know the one guy from Laws Rocket who actually passed away lived in North Carolina, but he was some doctor. I think he died of leukemia or some shit just several years ago. I have the album around here somewhere, but I can't remember what he passed away from. That's going to bug me. Or
I think wasn't it Willie Lang?
I think it
Yeah,
was.
I think it was an accident. I think it
He
was
passed
either
away from Willie Lang.
yeah,
No, here we go. I got Master
Either,
Records put out a couple.
there you go, Annihilation Principle. There you go.
Dude, I love all these.
Yeah, it was either a motorcycle accident or an auto accident.
I think it was Victor Agnello. We'll have to look it up.
We'll have to look it up.
Guys, yeah. But
I-
Nick, I meant to ask, you never saw somebody have they ever played live?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. They might. I don't know.
Are they German? Are they
Austrian?
Austrian? That's
I don't think they have. I mean, I don't live in Austria, but to my knowledge, I've never played live.
Kind of pulling a Dark Throne.
Yeah, well, their first album actually had a drummer, and it was actually not as symphonic, but they might have, after that first album that no one wants to speak its name because it's pretty terrible, before they found their sound. But they might have then when they actually had a drummer, I believe. So
Cool. Awesome. Well,
You're up, Kip.
all right. So this one, this
sucks.
is another like pinball album that just fucking flung me, changed my life. And I saw a video of theirs on MTV late one night. It seems to be kind of the running thing with me. I always stayed up late with my buddies and we would just talk and just listen to, watch these videos. And I wrote it down. I didn't think that the local record store, it's named Quonset Hut. Quonset Hut was amazing. I ended up working there years later. You guys would have shit yourself. The metal section, buddy of mine that, obviously you guys know, but a lot of other people don't, but he's from Canada, Rob. I met him down here and we went to Quonset Hut and he couldn't believe it, the shit they had. And so I didn't know that they would have this. And they did. And I was like, oh my God, because it was one song that I heard. And then when I bought it, it was sealed and it had that like fucking dog bone sticker on it. Remember those that used to be around the case? So
yeah, you got all sticky trying to take it off and it left a big gooey fucking mess on it. Yeah.
And it was never open. But when I opened it, I don't have that version anymore. But when I opened it, there was a bunch of math, like somebody was writing math equations on the fucking booklet.
That's probably me.
But I was like, wait a minute, what? And I took it back in and the guys that work there were like, dude, that's bizarre. We've never seen that. So they let me grab another one. And when I went back and heard the albums before this, I was like, holy shit, totally different band. And and it's like even the back, that's what got me into trouble. Seeing the t-shirt. Obviously
I love that era when like just t-shirts people were wearing in promo shots, like you want to explore them, or reading the liner notes out of an album or CD, like they thank bands, like, whoa, if they thank that band, they must be good.
Yeah.
That was such a fun time.
But this was when I opened it, it was right here. It was all written, all this shit here. It was like
mine's got a bunch of math shit in here. No. That was probably like a golden ticket from Reed Mullen that like you were going to get to go on the road with him or something.
Yeah. Well, everything about this, it's weird because two of the guys this is the only album that they're on. And that was Phil Swisher and
Carl Agel or Agel or whatever.
Yeah, because they went to another band called Leadfoot. I wasn't really in, but Carl's vocals sucked me in. It's not Pepper Keenan and Mike Dean's not on this album. So it's just Woody Weatherman, the guitar player. I've seen COC a couple times now. Got to see him once with Reed Mullen because the one thing about this is his drumming on this is outstanding and recently passed away. But we got to see him they opened up or they co-headlined with Brant Bjork. who was in Fu Manchu and Caius, and that was like one of the greatest shows ever. But Reed was phenomenal, and everything about this is like one of the most political albums. It's not punk in sound, but just in lyrically, it's so fucking punk. Like the lyrics are in it. Dance of the Dead was the song that I heard.
Right. The video they had for that.
Yep.
The video. And I absolutely love that song.
It's a good tune. It's a good tune.
Just love the vocals on it. I love the lyrics. Mine Are the Eyes of God. Oh my God, dude.
Oh, white noise.
That like end part where it kind of goes into
Yeah.
like this drum. Vote with a Bullet. They play that live, and Pepper did sing on some of the stuff. It was mostly Carl, but that's what got me into the band. I love the early stuff. I love the stuff before this. I even love the albums they did a couple where it was just Woody, Reed, and Mike later.
Oh, those last couple before,
yeah, and those are good.
Yeah.
But this is what got me into the band, and I still have, when I went to get Deliverance, I still have from Quonset Hut, when Deliverance, the album after this, they had this big square like poster thing sitting there, and I walked up and it was on the counter, like on the front, and I just went, oh man. And the guy was like, I just fucking take it, you can have it. And I was like, are you serious? And I still have it. This is so heavy. It's like it's awesome, man. Just like one of those moments in time where everything was just absolutely perfect. And again, Nick, it's like you see the t-shirt, or you look at the thanks list. I did that with Biohazard, Typo Negative. You look at all the thanks lists, and it was just, okay, get a piece of paper and just start writing the bands down, and then go to
you go to the CD store, the record store, with that list that you wrote down. Like, do you have blank? Okay, no. How about this one?
yeah. I remember
Josh Groban.
the
Do you have
dudes
any Josh Groban albums?
the dudes at Quonset Hut, because of a Biohazard album, they made fun of me because I was asking for a Mucky Pup album that they would think Mucky Pup, and I was just like, yeah, do you have Mucky Pup? And they're like, what the fuck is it? No, we don't even know who that is. And I was like, what? But this is in it. After I got this, and I was looking at like some of the other bands things list, and COC was in there. I was like, oh, it was just like meant to be. And that's another band, Jason, if you've never seen them live. They put on an amazing show. I don't know who the drummer is now.
Yeah, it's some short-haired dude that, because I've seen him 8 times with 7 with Reed, and the last time was obviously without Reed. Well, that was before he died, but I still thought he was still in the band, and then some other dude was up there.
Yeah.
But the way I came across that album was crazy, because I was a fan. I got Technocracy when it came out on vinyl, and I liked that that was back late 80s when I was getting into all the thrash, speed, everything, and anything related to it. And I was at a used record store, Recycled Records, in Colorado Springs, and they always had like a little bin up front of like promo copies and whatnot. And there was a blue cassette, and it just said Corrosion of Conformity, Blind. I was like, oh, I didn't even know they still existed. I thought they were broken up. And then I looked at like the song titles, and I was like, these don't, to me, they didn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I listened to it, I was like, and I mean, I think it probably had the band members listed. And I was like, okay, some of these guys are still there, but it was a total 180 from,
Totally different
their other,
from their
and
earlier stuff.
I saw them actually on that tour, and I didn't even know they were on the tour, because it was Maiden Fear of the Dark tour with Testament opening on The Ritual at Red Rocks. And we went up there, went to the show, and then I went up to the merch booth, and then there was a section that had Corrosion of Conformity shit. So I felt like a dumbass, but I was like, is COC playing? And they're like, yeah. And sure enough, fucking COC with Adele and Swisher and those guys opened the show. And I was like, fucking awesome. You know, they weren't on the ticket. They weren't on any of the ads for anything, but
It's a bonus.
yeah.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a close one for me, Kip. I had two COCs that could have been on the list, and I had to think of which one really shifted me. And that one fell to second, and the other one fell off the list. But
What was the other one?
oh, it's one of my honorable mentions.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's your turn anyway, so go ahead.
So
All right, I'm going to go back to 1981 when I had a brother that was 5 years older, but unfortunately he was more of like kind of a new wavy kind of guy, and we weren't close. And in 81, he was, you know, getting ready to get out of the house. And, you know, I was listening to Blondie, Air Supply, you know, all the good stuff like that. I did have a Queen tape, but it was Queen Greatest Hits with like Another One Bites the Dust, and didn't seem like anything special to me at the time. But my mom gave me money to go down to White Drug and buy. She said, here's some money, you can go buy an album. So I went down, and I'd heard a couple songs maybe on the radio from this band, and came home. And here, I got to pull up a picture of this because this is the delivery device we had in the basement by the ping pong table. And get it here. We had a Discotech sound design stereo. It had a disco ball that you could turn on, and then you could turn it to spin around and all kinds of shit. And it had an 8-track player in it. So your choices were either 8-track or vinyl. So I went down to White Drug and I bought this on 8-track. Journey, Escape. Got that sucker in and cranked it up. It had heavy bass on it.
Mm-hmm.
And when Don't Stop Believing, it may sound funny now, but when I heard that thing cranking out of that, it sounded like the heaviest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And that album basically is what I would say was my gateway to stuff heavier, because I obviously then moved on to stuff like Loverboy, which wasn't heavier than Journey, but it seemed heavy in that sense at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then down that gateway to then like Def Leppard, Quiet Riot, you know, Motley Crue, and then obviously the AC/DCs, the Priests, the Ozzies, all that stuff. But this album to this day, like even with the Sopranos, kind of Don't Stop Believing had that run where it got real popular again and got overblown. It's a song, if I rarely listen to the radio, but if it's on, I'm going to listen to that song all the way through. And this album, like, I still don't get sick of it. I mean, getting ready for this, I listened to it another dozen times in the last 2 weeks, just because I just, you know, Still They Ride, Mother, Father, those songs. Like, I just at work the other day, someone was playing music and I said, put on Still They Ride, because something about the musicianship in that band, what the heaviness seemed like to me, and like the composition of the songs, all of it was like a perfect album. There wasn't anything crappy on it. And it had, you know, it had ballads, but then Steve Perry's voice too. When, like, I'm still a Steve Perry fan to this day because of this album. When he came out with that comeback album a couple of years ago, yeah, it's super cheesy, but a couple times a year, I'll go into a phase where I will listen to the album start. Yes. I mean, it's like I hear it, and he's a little rougher in his voice these days, but I still will listen to it and I still get goosebumps. But
Yeah.
I mean, and I get goosebumps from Still They Ride or Mother, Father to this day when I hear it, because I just think about like being in the basement playing ping pong, having that cranked up, you know, and then I don't know. It's just, to me, it's
Journey, man. I'm with you.
Oh, Sherry.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I almost put a couple
Steve Perry's
Journey
amazing.
albums on mine, but Steve Perry is, I mean, my dad, when I grew up, my dad had Evolution and Departure on vinyl, and I listened to that, and it was hard for me. I ended up picking my pick for you guys to listen to, we'll get into later, it was hard for me because I was like, but then I saw you pick Journey and I was like, all right, I'll go with this other one. But that band, man, Neil Sean's a phenomenal player. I love that HSAS, Hager, Sean, Aronson, and Shreve Through the Fire that I found in Kent, Ohio, about a year ago, fucking sealed for like $6-7. Almost shit myself. I was like, oh my God, because Neil Sean is amazing. And I agree with you, man. Mother, Father, everything on here, I don't give a shit about that. The bonus track on here, La Raza del Sol, is great. But Open Arms, I don't care. Love it.
I love it. Another live album is the Live on the Escape tour in Houston. Well worth buying.
Yeah, and the eerie thing
Nick,
about
do you like Journey, Nick?
Yeah, I don't own any of their albums. I know they're hits, but
you know what? Because Joey Belladonna from Anthrax, that's his #1 influence. That's no lie. No lie.
I don't like Journey anymore. I don't like Journey.
You know how they
Journey
started?
sucks.
You know how the band started?
No.
They were in Santana. Neil Sean, Greg Raleigh. I think that they were in Santana. They put albums that nobody really ever listens to, but they were like 70s prog.
Yeah.
I think Robert Fleischman was the vocalist on a couple of them.
I never knew those existed until like in the early 2000s. I honestly knew that those, and I bought them. And my neighbor was like, "Oh yeah, they've got shit without Steve Perry."
This came out with Steve Perry and Wheel in the Sky, and that was it. And that just kind of
Wheel in the Sky is fucking rad. I love that song.
Yeah, and me, I'm more of a Greg Raleigh era guy because I like his interplay with Steve Perry's vocals. But that 81, that Live in Houston, it's freakish because as Steve Perry sings, his vocals get better throughout the show. Where usually somebody would like strain, by the end of that, it's like the dude is just effortless. And I don't give a shit. That new one's cheesy as hell. It's sappy. I love it.
Yep.
Absolutely love it. It's
I mean, I'll listen to, I mean, I don't even own anything after Frontiers. And but I'll listen to that new Steve Perry all day long.
Yeah. I'd listen to him sing the phone book. I don't give a shit. I'd sit there and listen to it. Excellent pick.
All right. Speaking of an excellent pick that you guys won't give a shit about, but there are a few albums in my life that I can actually say literally a 10 out of 10. The ones I've had earlier, if you have some faults with, I totally get it. But this is just such an absolute gem of an album. And it, again, completely changed my mind about what black metal can be, or could be. The band started off, with this, cheesy, heavy synths going on, pretty raw black and metal. And they got a little more, refined as they went through their next couple albums. In the previous album, they started incorporating a little more folk music to their stuff. And but then they released this album, and I've never heard anything like it. I probably don't think I'll ever hear anything like it again. There's no way anyone can ever emulate what this band did on this album, because it's just it's so hard to describe. I think on the Brave boards, when this came out, Svarog had like a 15-page paragraph about like once he listened to it, like he wants to wear Versace jeans now, and like he's talking about like I don't know what it was. You guys might remember. It was like Apollyon versus Dionysus, like stuff going on about like listening how this made him like feel like it changed. Like he was bringing Greek mythology and Versace jeans into how this album changed his life. And it totally makes sense to me, even though I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. But like it's black metal for sure. There's some folk music in it, but then they have like Pink Floyd breakdowns. Like there's this blasting black metal, and then there's this 3-minute section of like almost a ska riff, dunk, 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 and there's this bluesy guitar solo. After 3 minutes, it goes back into this blasting, beautiful black metal, and then the next song has like this Euro pop song about country of Ukraine. It sounds like you're in a fucking like discotheque listening to this black metal album, and then it goes into like an acoustic song. It's the most varied album. Literally, I could probably, if my collection of like 1,700 CDs, I could probably maybe literally without a second of a doubt give like maybe 10 of them a 10 out of 10. And this is one of them. 2 versions, the original from 2009 and the remaster. But Nocturnal Mortems, I mean, this one's better because it doesn't have a blast. Nocturnal Mortems, Voice of Steel. I mean, just look at this shit. The whole goddamn thing. This fucking giant wearing these fucking suspenders back there. You got this Valkyrie over here forging a fucking sword. Oh my god. It's just ever since I've heard that, like I've just been wanting to find something else that sounded like this or has like changed my perspective on music. And this was 2009, and I haven't heard anything since, to be honest with you. Like I still find albums that I love and I totally get into. They're great, my album of the year. But this is like the last album I can think of that there it is. The last album I can think of that when I listen to, I'm like, what the fuck? How did you even write this? Where were their brains at when they were able to come up with the most varied? It still sounds like Nocturnal Mortem, but if you listen to Goat Horns, like this is the same band that did Goat Horns and To the Gates of the Blasphemous Fire. I really wanted to make this the one I wanted you guys to listen to, but I didn't want to really upset Jason Larson too much.
Well, I'm gonna listen to it. What's the name of the album?
The Voice of Steel.
Voice of
Oh,
Steel.
the Voice of Steel.
At least listen to the song Valkyrie, because that has the pink. It's blasting black metal symphonic shit, and then there's this 3-minute breakdown where it sounds like you're listening to The Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, dude, I know exactly. That's what hooked.
Right.
I never really got into the band. I never really listened to them, but I heard that song, and when I heard that like middle, I just thought, "Holy shit, dude! Like this is." And it goes into that solo. It's like when I hear the solo on that Arcturus album, you know, that Aspera Hymn
Symphonia. Yeah.
And it goes into like this really, it's got like the arpeggio sweeps, and I was just like, what the, this is black metal. Like, what is this? And that's, yeah. I agree, man. This is,
it's so hard to describe. You've never heard it. And if you haven't, I highly suggest you fucking listen to this, because this is probably, this would be like, this is, you said, a pattern of a desert island. Like, I can't, it's so good. I can't even fucking talk about it. It just, I'm trying to create words, but I'm like, there's so much going on here. If you know it, you know it. And I am wearing Versace jeans at the moment right now, because that's all I buy now.
Because of Svarog.
Yeah, Svarog just took, he opened my mind about it. Like now,
well,
like
that's one of those albums.
I used to be a dirty black metal guy, but now
you're a classy black metal guy.
Now I'm wearing plaid shirts.
No. That's one of those albums that I think when it came out on the board was, I don't remember anybody bagging on it. It was one of those that kind of everyone was just saying, what's next? You know, and then, because didn't they have one? Haven't they had just one since?
Just one since, yeah. Because
and it was,
this album was so fucking good. It took them like 7 years to come out with the next album. We're like, oh shit, we might have just peaked. Like, we can't. What do we do after this?
No, it's classic, man. That's people who are just getting into black metal. I'm just like, you know what? I always Nocturnal Mortem, Voice of Steel. It's absolutely perfect, especially that album cover is like one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah, and this remaster is great. If you can get it, so you actually hear the bass on it now, which is nice. And then it comes with an early version of Valkyrie, the song I was talking about, and it's changed up a little bit for sure. Like it's like the arrangement is different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like you get the remaster version. There's so much other shit in here. Like there's just pages and pages of like extra bullshit. Fucking amazing. God. I mean, Nocturnal Morning is one of my favorite bands of all time. They are the band I have more T-shirts of than any other heavy metal band. I have like 8 Nocturnal Morning shirts.
One of them from I
One of
got
them from you. Yeah.
to the brown one. Isn't
Yeah,
it
the
all
brown one. So that album, the Mirrors of Vienna album, I thought like, oh my God, this is so great. They can't top this. And then they released this album. And I thought that album was a 10 out of 10. And then they released Voice of Steel. I'm like, no, that album is now a 9 out of 10. That's how good this freaking album is.
awesome?
Worship or die, bitches. Jason, I'll send you Valkyrie so you can hear that.
Mhm.
Good.
Absolutely incredible. Oh, and they are a little bit NS, but this bonus version does have a cover of Knights in White Satin.
True story. Nick, you know Justin?
Yeah.
He was named, his parents named him after the Moody Blues Justin Hayward. Nice
Really?
white satin.
Wow. it even comes with a poster of the album. Like, I mean, God.
Yeah,
damn.
that's just
cool. That's
Get
cool
out of
cover.
town. All right. There you go.
awesome album.
No, it's not awesome. It's impeccable.
Spectacular.
Yes.
10 out of 10.
Easy.
It's all you, Jay.
All right. Let's go back to September 3rd, 1984.
Great day.
It was
Is
a
it-
great day.
It was a beautiful spring day. It was, I think it was like 72.
No, a late summer day being September 3rd, 1984. I'm at the age of 13. The local radio station went by KMET. Put out a commercial saying they were going to play this album in its entirety on the day that it comes out. So I go to my mom and I beg her. I
Stay
said,
home from school.
No, it was played late at night. I remember that. It started at 11 p.m. No, I said, Mom, you have got to go to Fedco, which was a local store out here at the time. And you got to buy me a 4-pack of high bias Maxell tapes, Mom. You gotta buy high bias. It has to be 100 minutes. Don't do 90 minutes, Mom. It's gotta be 100 minutes. I gotta get the whole album on one side, Mom. She bought me the 90-minute one.
Well, you got screwed.
Oh boy, did I. And so I put that blank tape in the double deck tape player and I hit record and listened to that over and over again, except for the last tune. And that last tune ran.
Oh, that tune sucks. That tune sucks.
Runs 13 minutes and 30 seconds. And I lost like the last,
10.
yeah. No, it was toward the end, and I was mad because it ran out, and the little button that's down on the tape player, it clicks back up, and I'm like, damn, and I quickly turned it around and pressed play and record. And so not soon after that, I went to I had to buy the cassette because CDs just weren't around back then. And I could not pass this band on our little life-changing list because this band's a life changer. I know it's all your guys' life changers too, but you wanted to choose others. And I said, okay, I'll be the one to pick this one up. And this was the first full album that I ever heard from them. For me, it's damn near perfect. Okay. And that would be Power Slave.
Yep.
Power
Yep.
Slave from Maiden.
Damn near perfect. If you take Back in the Village off, it would be a perfect album.
I'd say take Lost for Words off. And then
Lost for Words.
I mean, I like both those two songs, but those are definitely the bottom two.
Oh, I would
I
agree.
love
Yeah.
I love Lost for Words. I think that song's great. That was the last time they did
Well,
an instrumental.
it's got the great guitar harmonies, you know.
Yeah.
It's my favorite Bruce Maiden
Yeah.
album by far. I think it's
And of
everything.
course, the World Slavery Tour comes out in early '85. My older friend did not get his license in time, so I missed the World Slavery Tour.
Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
At Long Beach, possibly.
Yes, at Long Beach.
You could have been on the record.
Could have been there.
You guys ever noticed on that video? I know it's not him, but there's numerous times when it pans over the floor. There's a dude that looks like kind of like a skinnier, if you can imagine that, skinnier Cliff Burton with his girlfriend down there.
Wow.
So we would always sit there and look at it and try to slow down the VHS to see, can you see the Misfits tattoo on his fucking left arm? And it wasn't him, but it looks like him. It's a pretty dead ringer for him.
I haven't watched that VHS probably in 23 years, but
Sure. Yeah.
but that's
Well,
such a,
maybe you could watch a Blu-ray or a stream now.
I only own it on VHS.
Did you guys go to the tour several years ago when they did Power Slave again?
I went to the original. I went to the Slavery Tour.
Yeah,
I was too
somewhat-
young, so I went to the other one.
Yeah.
The Summer Back in Time tour.
Yeah.
Guys, that was 13 years ago. That was '08. That's how long it's been,
2
Kip.
years ago.
Few
I'm like,
years
just a
ago.
couple years ago, 13 years
15
ago.
years ago. It was '08. Yeah.
God damn, that album. I mean, Aces High, the whole goddamn thing. I mean, Power Slave itself. And why didn't they now play Flash of the Blade?
Flash of the Blade or the Duelists.
Flash of the Blade live, please. Come on, that's like the most underrated, like underperformed song. Like,
I don't
Get
think
that
they've
shit
ever,
out there.
I don't think they've ever done that or the Duelists. Either of those.
Probably
I
not.
don't think so either, too. Yeah, live. I don't think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, I've heard Power Slave and Aces High in 2 minutes live enough. Bring out the Duelist and Flash of the Blade, please.
You guys, Dave Murray or Adrian Smith? Who do you think is better?
Murray, Dave Murray. I like them both. I don't care. I mean, either of them way over Yannick Gers any day of the week. You know,
Well,
Yannick has stepped up. 90s Yannick, definitely not. But since the 2000s, he's written some really good songs.
I
But
always,
yeah,
I always
I
like,
love Adrian's bluesy style for sure.
if you like his bluesy style, there you go.
Yeah, that just came out like a month ago, right?
Do
like
this.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. Adrian Smith and Richie Kotzen. Adrian's got a good voice too, man. It's just great, straightforward bluesy rock. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff on it. I was kind of surprised by Adrian's voice, to be honest with you. I already knew that, you know, Kotzen can sing, he can wail, but I've always liked.
Remember, like, because he did that "Reach Out" song.
Reach Out. I was gonna say, did you hear the B side "Reach Out"? I think it was the B side.
Wasted Years. It's the Wasted Years single. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. I love Power Slave, man. Power Slave, and that to me is like, there's something that is just massive about it. Like the other Bruce stuff is like, okay, but when it was like Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Live After Death, it like, when I was younger, just getting into Maiden, I couldn't wrap my head around it because it seemed like they were just like this mega band, and however big they were now, I think it's arguable that they're probably even bigger now.
Oh, totally. Because
It's
the
not.
way they're able to tour and the crowds they draw now
Yeah.
are just, I mean, especially outside of, I mean, they'll sell out all their US shows, but they play a more limited number, but then they play all those South American and European shows and like packed stadiums, you know.
100,000 people.
That's the one thing I'll say about them compared to Priest. Can't do that these days.
I mean, Priest will sell out like 6,000 seats of a 20,000 seat arena.
Yeah,
You know, it's sad. It's kind of like,
yeah.
you know, I get it though, because I don't know, there's something about Maiden to me that has just put them to a whole nother level musically, and like,
That's because it's the best band of all time.
Visually, it's a visual show.
yeah, because
It's not
Priest
just
is
the
still
music.
like,
Well, it's like Kiss, but not as. It's like Kiss, but legit. Because Kiss can do it, but
It's hokey. Tokyo.
Yeah. It's
I've
just
listened.
it's
I
a
think I've
novel.
listened to Live After Death so many times that now, if I ever hear the studio version of 2 Minutes to Midnight, I always wait to hear that little guitar feedback that happens, in their little harmony mellow bit in the middle, because I'm so accustomed to that Live After Death version. Because since I got to see the tour when that album came out, I lived on that thing for 2 years, and Power Slave is probably the one that solidified Maiden as like the band for me, because I'd already had the the ones up to it I'd bought, but that was the first one I bought. No, Peace of Mind I got as a new when it was new, but Power Slave is what took them over the top and just made.
Same thing with Revelations. It's so much faster on Live After Death. When you go back to the Peace of Mind version, it's like feels like, oh my god, this is dragging. Bum 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 bum. But on Live After Death, it's bum 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 bum. So good.
Excellent.
All right, Kip.
All right, I'll go through this one quickly. This is another sitting, watching a video that comes on, and everything I was into up to that point. So it was like Kiss, AC/DC, Van Halen, Poison, Warrant, Rat, Motley Crue, all that stuff. I was, this came out, I was 16, about 15 or 16. And it just shot me. The trajectory just went in a completely different way. So we're talking about Fu Manchu and all this stuff. The desert scene to me had more in common with Sabbath to me. It was like fuzzy, bass heavy, this band had more in common with Hawkwind. And that's what got me obsessed with Monster Magnet. And Negasonic Teenage Warhead, that song, just like perfect album, perfect song. Dave Windorf is, to me, second to Phil from Thin Lizzy in terms of his lyrics. The guy's a master. Some of the shit his lyrics are so surreal, but they're great. And I think, what's the one line? Cashing the devil's paycheck with my dick in my hand. Stuff that's just like bizarre lyrics, but they all mean so. They're tongue in cheek. I saw him live once. That was on the Monolithic Baby tour. Changed my life forever. I was just like in awe. He was hanging from the fucking rafters like a monkey, like swinging. I mean, they played to a couple hundred people, and he played like it was Madison Square Garden in 1976, and put on a great show. Ed Mundell, the guitar player, left after that. I think he did one more album, I think Mastermind, and then he took off. But they do have some in common with Sabbath, but to me it's Hawkwind, and that's completely, they're from East Coast. All the fuzzed out stuff is from the West Coast, but this is like, they got a new album coming out called A Better Dystopia, and I spent like $50 on just getting the vinyl and like a slit mat. I pre-ordered it. It comes out in next month, and it's all covers, but it's covers from bands that you really have never heard. There's one band from Youngstown, Ohio, named Puba, that came out in the 70s, and it's just fucking killer, fuzzed out guitar. And so they're covering that. There's some other stuff that they do. Every album I love. My buddy Jay and I were supposed to go see him in Pittsburgh. It was actually Monster Magnet and Nebula. And then COVID hit, and we were like, fuck, and they postponed it, and then they canceled that one. And I've seen him once. Jay, who's as much of a fan as me, has never seen him. And so that's kind of a bummer. Dopes it's my favorite album from them by far. But there's so many great albums, Spine of God, Super Judge. The newer stuff is excellent. Mindfucker was the last actual studio album they put out, and
Sounds like Nick's life.
it's that Mindfucker's less Hawkwind and more MC5 and just straightforward rock. So that's it for me. This also, I mean, solidified my descent into stoner.
I fucking hate that band, just so you know.
You do?
Yeah. I think it's like they opened for a Megadeth on the Cryptic Writings tour, right?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Just that's it. Maybe it was too young then, but it's the cover with like him doing the devil horns, but it's like weed green. Like they just made a jokes of themselves live. I've never actually listened to them on album, but seeing them live opening for Megadeth, get these fucking losers off the stage. You guys suck.
Well, they don't fit with Megadeth, but I was
one of those bands I've tried, and I used to did not like them. Now I'm just I've reached the more ambivalent stage instead of disliking them. So I keep every year, especially now since we've been corresponding, going back, and I'm kind of like, okay, because like with that album, like I heard that Negasonic Teenage Warhead in Seattle, you'd hear it either on the rock radio or the alternative radio. They were both playing it, and I saw them on that tour with COC, and it was like they were cool live, but there's just something about them. They're one of those bands like Tool, like there's like, in a sense I should like them, but there's something about them that's like keeping me from taking it to the next level. So I've never.
It's probably their really bad lack of songwriting skills. That's probably why you don't like
it. No, it's
love you, buddy. Love you, Kip.
I do. What's crazy is like on that, was it Nativity in Black 2? They did the Into the Void cover. Yeah. But then had all the spacey stuff, which I didn't like. But when they get to the little section of the song that they actually did, I thought it was totally killer.
Yeah. So that's why it's like, I'm a big Hawkwind fan. Yeah. I love Hawkwind. I love anything Lemmy. So it's like Hawkwind to me is the shit. And so Monster Magnet, where Hawkwind still exists in some way, shape, or form, they just kind of picked up and went. And he was never like, Dave Windorf, I posted it in the group, Gnar group. He was in a punk band called Shrapnel. And they kind of like power pop, Ramones style. And I thought that stuff was really cool. But then he started getting into more of the garage type stuff and mixing it with Hawkwind. And then Tab 25 came out, and I have every album. So they're one of my favorite bands ever. So that's it.
I haven't given up on them yet.
Don't. Check out Mindfucker, because that's a little more like straightforward. It's a little more like the Stooges, MC5. It's got like more punch to it. It's not as spaced out as this stuff. And it's funny, anytime I'm listening to Monster Magnet, you mentioned, Pat, where you're like this with my wife, I'm always like losing it. She's like, oh my God. And I'm like, because this was it, man. We used to listen to this.
Was that through an Apple? Did you core out an Apple and do that?
Yeah, Apple Bong. No, my buddies and I, man, we used to go in my buddy John's basement and listen to, Monster Magnet and White Zombie and stuff. His parents were loaded, and we would smoke weed in his basement and blow it out the window. And his parents were just clueless. And they would come downstairs and they'd be like, man, what's that smell? We're like, oh, so-and-so farted or something. It's not. And like, my buddy Scott's like on the couch, just like just blowed out. It's fucking smoke, man. And we got like strobes going, Monster Magnet or White Zombie blaring, and it was like a little glass block window with like that little one that was like you open it up and it was we're like smoking and blowing it out the window. But yeah, but that's it. So Pat, you're up.
All right, so this is our final ones, right?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, this is a band that they had an EP out that came out in 2002 that I really got into. It wasn't, I mean, it was an EP, but it was a totally self-financed EP. Came out. The guy made them on his own computer, printed everything off on his own computer on the first run, all that kind of stuff. But it was a band that really got a buzz on the Brave board, which is kind of that. And they had a Knuckle Track song that kind of got me into it. So when I knew they were having a new album come out, I was real anticipating it because I really loved that EP they had. So I pre-ordered it, and the band kind of broke up and had changes. So I probably had it pre-ordered for like a year before it came out. Sometime within that year, a couple samples were posted somehow online. I don't even remember if YouTube still existed then or what format, if it was some kind of MySpace thing or something. And so I knew it was going to be different because the EP was more straightforward, just kind of blasting. And I mean, they consider themselves black metal. It was black metal, kind of the first EP, but when the second album came out, it was not black metal. But when it arrived, I listened to it straight through, and it was Woods of Ypres, Woods 2, Pursuit of the Sun, and Lure of the Earth, and something about it just grabbed me. And what was life-changing about it to me was it was one of those kind of periods of time. We had been down here a couple of years, left Seattle, and we're in a small town, and I'd just been on the Brave board, and that was kind of my new way of learning about new bands and that kind of thing. And you could also correspond with people that were in bands that happened to be on the Brave board, which this guy was. So I started buying merch from him. But once this album came out, I went kind of full on into, people into metal. A lot of them can have that collector vibe where you have to get everything, and it starts becoming an obsession. And that's what I did with this band. I just started anything that came out. If they played 3 shows in Nova Scotia, I had to get the shirt for it. So I was shelling out the money, and I probably have now well over 20 shirts from this band, and all the albums, how they came out, whatever format. Corresponded with the guy quite a bit. So I'm not going to say it was necessarily the music that grabbed me or was life-changing. It was just one of those things where I felt like I was a kid again, and I just had to learn everything about this band and get everything that I had everything they'd done to that point. But since then, up until his death in 2011, I bought everything, went usually directly through him to buy it because that was the easiest way to get it. At some point early on around this time frame, I told him, hey, I'm trying to get everything, any comp you've been on, I'm trying to get it. What all have you been on? And he was a good medium to give me that information. So at some point after this album came out, I think it was even closer to their third album coming out, he said, hey, I got something at my mom's house. Do you want it? It's something you might want for your collection. So I said, sure. So he mailed me this, it's like his song mapping board for this album. So it's how he mapped it all out,
Wow.
He sent you that?
That is.
Yeah, he said, I'll just send it to you. I said, well, you're on the road, you need money. So I sent him like 40 or $50 for shipping from Canada. And
Wow.
he put it down, and it became part of the collection. And it's one of those albums that, like, when I listen to it still to this day, I have to listen to it start to finish. I mean, I'll every now and then I'll have to break it up for whatever reason, but like Light of Day, Day of Darkness, Green Carnation, Agalock, The Mantle, those 2 albums, like if I start it, I basically got to finish it because it's to me, it's one whole piece. They're a polarizing band. People either love them or hate them. And there's still people today finding out about this band. And typically they're a younger crowd that likes them. And I get it, for whatever, for his lyrical reason or whatever that they like that. But it's just something about how that album starts with the slow kind of plodding intro. And then it goes into a little bit of kind of the blasting from the first album. But then it has a lot of mellow bits with the squeaky guitars. I love all that stuff. And it's something about it. When I got it, I thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard. One of the best things after Unleashed in the East. And I mailed it to a bunch of friends. think all of them except one, my neighbor, he loved it. The rest of them all hated it, sold it. But it's just one of those that captured probably that 7-year period where I was ravenous and had to buy everything they had. Once he died, that's David Gold, the drummer and kind of the brain behind it. Other than I think when Earache, because the last album came out the month after he died. So I bought all of them. They had like 4 vinyl versions, but after that, I just stopped buying anything Earache put out. It was just like, to me, it was the end of an era. It was over and done, but got 20 some shirts, hoodies. I've got,
Jesus.
I mean, I like when he spent a year in Korea and then a year in Saudi Arabia, and we'd send care packages back and forth to each other. So, you know, he'd send me like he was teaching kids English in Saudi Arabia. He'd send me like funny things that they wrote in English that had, you know, good English translations that weren't exactly what they meant, you know, that kind of stuff. So it was kind of all that stuff about the internet really becoming a medium for following bands, learning about new music. That's how it was life changing to me. That's how I got onto Facebook. I was never going to go onto Facebook, but in 2009, their 4th album was coming out and he started posting songs on Facebook, and that was the only way you could hear the songs. So I joined Facebook in 2009 for that reason and that reason alone, you know, and it was, so that's how that thing's life changing to me. It's not, I mean, it's a lot of it's about the music to me, but I know there's a lot of flaws on the record, but to me, it's their best record. It's the most varied of their records. And it was kind of one where he took over the vocals on that. So he does the harsh vocals, he does the clean vocals. I love his voice. Some people hate him, some people love him. He played twice down here locally, and I couldn't go to either show, but I did go to Toronto twice to see him. Once was for a funeral or kind of like a funeral that he played at, but I did go see him up there. It was how much I liked him. I flew to Toronto the first time I saw him, just specifically to see Woods. So
Wow.
I saw them too at that show.
At that second one, yeah.
I got to see him at the Heathen Crusade in
Yeah.
Minneapolis.
Wow. I never listened to him. I always heard of him, and I knew from the board. Did he? I can't remember. I remember when he passed, and there's so many fans that were coming out, you know, especially on the board, and they were talking about it, and I was like, it was shocking to me because I thought, holy shit, did this band just start? Like, this guy only has a couple albums out, you know. But listening to it, I liked it. I wasn't big on the clean vocals that much, but I really did enjoy some of the tracks. I like the heavier stuff.
Right.
I think one of the tracks, some of the song titles to me, I was kind of like, I think back in the day, it's kind of what turned me off unfairly, because after listening to this album, I was like, especially knowing what I was into in the early 2000s, I was like, this would be right in my wheelhouse. And I just completely overlooked it. But I dug
What
it.
is it, like drag my body through a forest or something?
Straight across a forest floor.
Yeah, stuff like that. But I liked it. I didn't dislike the clean vocals enough that I would never buy any of this stuff. It sucks that he's gone. I can't remember. Didn't he get hit by a car or something?
Yeah, truck or something. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, isn't there like controversy about that story, and nobody really knows?
Well, it's one of those things. I don't think, since nobody said anything, I think a lot of people have ideas about what happened. But
Right.
if you listen to the last album,
Gray Skies or whatever.
yeah, if you listen to the lyrics on that, I think you might have an idea. You know, if that's indeed what happened, if it was like a suicide or something, I don't know. Because when you listen to that last record, it kind of, to me, it's tells the story almost.
Premonition.
Yeah.
So I only heard them one time previously before this, besides seeing them live, but actually listening to a CD. And my brother's friend sent us a bird copy of that album, actually, back in like, what, 04 was that came out?
It came out in 04.
So maybe it was late 04, maybe early 05. And I listened to it, and I passed it off as like a poor man's Agalloch.
Yeah.
which I'm probably sure you like a lot of Woods fans have heard before. Because same thing with Agalock, a lot of those like acoustical interludes. Agalock, same thing, not the greatest clean vocals for sure. And I listened to it again, this week, and I still kind of feel the same way. I enjoyed it way more than I did the last time, but like you could see I could see why people fell in love with that shit. It's really fucking good. But to me, it feels like I haven't heard anything other than that. But to me, I could feel like if they just do this, but like tighten it up, clean it up, like the third album might be even better. The fourth album, it still seemed a little like a young band, and if they just
Totally, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you listen to the first EP, it's all more black blasting. He's not singing; he's just the drummer on the first record, and then kind of from the second record on, he was kind of like the driving force behind everything. So I mean, they had different lineups for every album, and he took over. He left the drums and went to guitar and vocals, from 2 through 5. So yeah, it's
a great story, man.
Actually, I want to go explore the 3 through 5 because I liked it enough now. Like, oh, I could see that this is very raw. This could use some work, but I could see the musical ideas going on.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and for me, I was capable of listening to the whole album. I like the changing between the harsh and the clean. I think I wouldn't like it as much as if it was 100% harsh. And that might be a band kind of like with Amorphous, where maybe I should start with album number 5 and
yeah. Well, 5 is
back to that one.
5 is the cleanest sounding because that was an earache release. They probably had a little bit of funding for it. I mean, in the songwriting, I think is the strongest on the 5th, but yeah, start at 5 and work your way back to, because their first one will be like Scream Bloody Gore when you get to that one, so.
Very cool.
I guess my only complaint was probably the length of the album. It's over an hour. So
yeah,
on the album.
His 4th album is like that too. It probably is a couple songs too long, but I dig them all. But yeah, that 4th one is really, that's one that also, had, I think at one point he was leaving the States and was having to get done and within a whole nother continent.
The third track, how many times did you say the sun is in my eyes? Like at least 16 times. Like, okay, I get it. The sun is in your eyes, dude.
Well, and then he's got The Sun Was in My Eyes Part Doom is the next song, which to me is one of my all-time favorite Wood songs. But there was a live clip someone posted early on, and I think it might have been when they were opening for Moon Sorrow in Canada somewhere. And someone in the crowd kept screaming, "Fuck the sun." So he had Woods Heavy Prey shirts made up that on the back, just in real bold letters, say "Fuck the sun." So yeah, I think it's a black version and a yellow version, but
very cool.
All right,
so
I'll move on to my one I had you guys listen to. I don't know where to begin with this. This was life-changing to me because probably one of the first folk metal bands I heard, and I'm a huge folk metal fan. This is before folk metal became a bullshit genre, when like fucking Ailstorm and I don't know, pirate metal band shit, and just like before folk metal was a joke. It was a cool thing, like played some like natural instruments from their country, and this is cool, and mixing with metal. Like this is awesome. I love heavy metal. Again, being like a oboe playing classical person, like I love hearing and growing up on folk music with my parents, listening to Peter, Paul, and Mary and Bob Dylan and folk tunes, and like, oh, these bands are covering folk music from their country. This is awesome, and mixing with heavy metal. So fuck Ailstorm, fuck Swashbuckle, all those other bullshit napalm bands that like put out garbage that people think of folk metal now because it became a fucking oversaturated joke.
mm-hmm.
But back in 03, I heard this, and it just I didn't even know what to do with it, because it's just like, it's heavy, it's all 6/8, like it's all 6/8 time, which is definitely like swashbuckling as a point, but it's not corny, it's not cheesy, and half the songs have this fucking little flute going on in the background. And there's so many vocal layers, even though it's in English, I can't understand a goddamn word they're saying when they're singing because like this is in English and you follow along with it, like, oh, that's what they're saying, but it's so
I didn't know it was in
layered.
English. I honestly didn't. I thought it
It
wasn't.
doesn't sound, no, all the lyrics are in English, but it doesn't sound like it because you can't understand a word because he's like layered his vocals and the album is all about the harmonies and the melodies going on with that. Like they're very simple songs. But the way it hit me, like back in '03 when it came out, I never knew this kind of shit existed. And I put this on, like, oh my God, this is awesome. It's folk music, it's heavy metal, a couple of tracks with a little bit of harsh vocals, but mostly clean. And I would marry this album. If this album was a woman, I would put a ring on it. And that is a Falkenbach, Oknafnatisvarti. Which is funny because the album is in Icelandic, but all the songs are in English. And as Larson would say, he thought it was Falkenbach, but he texted us Falkenbach.
Two separate words.
Falkenbach.
Falconback.
Yeah. So from now on in my mind, Falkenbach will be Falconback. So I hope you appreciate it. I chose this for you, Larson. I would have done Voice of Steel, but I didn't want to torture you too much. But it's one of the most unique sounding bands I've ever heard of, for sure.
And that one, I totally listened to it all the way through. I actually enjoyed that album. I think there's a lot of Viking metal influence in that one too, and for some reason, because I know Tyr, I'm into Tyr.
Tyr?
Tyr too. I'm into Tyr, and yeah, I think I don't know, Pat. I think that band could fit in Prog Power.
Well, that's the thing too, Jason. Is like I had you listen to Hammerheart, 3 weeks ago. This Falkenbach sounds like if Hawthorne actually can sing. This is like he took Hammerheart, cleaned it up, and made it actually like someone that actually put a vocal melody together. Doesn't sound like what Kip was saying. Would you call Hawthorne a mongoose or a
walrus?
Dying walrus or pregnant?
Dying walrus, yeah.
So it's just take Hammerheart, but put it together with better production and cleaner shit, and that's that Falkenbach album.
There's a lot of it that reminded me of Moon Sorrow, like certain parts here and there, the folkiness of it. I have one of the newer albums called Asa.
That's their last album.
Yeah, and I don't listen to it that much. I'm not a big folk metal guy, but I like it whenever I hear it. So
exactly, like so, folk metal has a bad rap now. Like I love folk metal, but it's not. Folk metal got too prancy with the Corporate Glani shit and the.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like how Corporate Glani got real popular, and then this is an earlier age of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, you could tell. I mean, the album cover, it is kind of like the stoner rock scene in a way where now there's so much shit out there and you really got to wade through hours and days of going down the YouTube rabbit hole to find something that's like, okay, well, this is like legit and it's really good. Back in the day, like in '03 when this came out, I mean, you could just like close your eyes and point your finger at something. The shit was awesome. And there was so much of this that came out, and I never heard the band until I bought their last one. I heard of them, but I mean, I dig it. The one you had us listen to, that one, I thought it was really cool. I couldn't distinguish the songs apart from each other because it's kind of the same.
Yeah. Got a good flow to it though. That's perfect for it.
Yeah, it doesn't get boring at all.
It's only 40 minutes.
It goes quick because there's even like 1 or 2 9-minute songs, I think. There.
The first song and the last song are both like 9 minutes. Everything else is like 4.
What's funny is like I have the album before this and the one after it, and for some reason I hadn't spun them in years, and I thought they were a little heavier than this was. So this was actually kind of a breath of fresh air to me because I listened to it probably at least 6-7 times since, you mentioned you were going to pick this one, and I'll definitely be going back to it.
Yeah, it's great. I just love the Viking horns, the fucking the sounds of the waves coming in. It's just that is true folk metal to me. When people start talking about folk metal and then people show up in fucking kilts and like I went to a folk metal show. I think it was called, it might have been, I can't remember who it was recently, but like this is the new trend nowadays where instead of like moshing at a folk metal show or jigging, they fucking lay down on the floor and they fucking row boats on the fucking pit floor. Like, oh my God. I can't believe I like this. Like, it's just,
Wow.
as like, I don't want to sound elitist, but fucking like, I fell in love with folk metal like in 02, 03. And then when Napalm Records took over fucking folk metal and just became like a fucking joke.
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed to say I like folk metal, but I only like 02 to 08, 07 folk metal because then it just became a fucking parody.
yeah, dude, I know how you feel. It's like that with stoner now, where you go see one great stoner band live, and then all the opening bands are like Wizard Acid, Witch of Bong Mountain, and it's just like, ugh, fucking whatever, and it all sounds the same. There's a great quote from Phil Collin from Def Leppard back in the day. He said, when you take a stereotype and everything starts to sound like the stereotype, that's when it becomes absolutely pathetic. And that's exactly what happened to like folk metal and stoner doom.
Any of it, you think about that thrash revival of the whatever that was, early to mid 2000s. It was like the first couple bands, yeah, they were cool, but then it was just like the album covers all looked the same, and they sounded like,
that's what we call pizza thrash.
Pizza thrash, yes.
Yeah. A dude from Lich King probably rused the day he ever got on the Brave board. Absolutely shredded.
Well, now that I know when Falcon Bat gets to Portland, I'm going to have to mail Nick some oars.
Oh, geez. I don't care how much I pay for a ticket. If I see motherfuckers oaring in the middle of the floor, dude, like rowing, I'm out. I'm out. I'm like Patrick when fucking
Jörn
Landa comes out with his shades. I'm just like Bolton. But yeah, I think it's all you, Jay.
Yeah. I go back to the beginning. This album really started it all for me. It's Christmas 1980. I still own the vinyl, so that makes it a little bit over 40 years old. Got a hold of my older sister this weekend, talking to her about it, and she's like, yeah, I think I gave that to you for Christmas, just trying to verify all the stories. When I was growing up, I had a little BMX bike that a guy at the end of the cul-de-sac would fix up, and I would go over there, and he had this guy on vinyl, and he had his little record player. I remember in the garage as he would take the kickstand off my brand new BMX bike, and I'm like, who is that? And he's like, oh man, it's the new album. It's Cat Scratch Fever. And I'm like, man, that sounds really cool. So Christmas Day, 1980, my sister gives me Ted Nugent, Double Live Gonzo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I'm proud to say that I've kept it. I haven't lost it. What else is there to say? You can say what you want about his political views. It doesn't matter. But that album sold 3 million copies in 1978. Where are my notes? I don't have as many notes as I did last time.
Does he do a cover of Nights in White Satin?
No, he doesn't. He does not do a cover of Nights in White Satin. But he does do a cover of Baby Please Don't Go.
Yes.
Sells 3 million sales in 1978, reaches number 13 in the United States. Yeah, Ted Nugent, Double Live Gonzo.
Every time I have sex with my wife, we call that double live gonzo.
And that talking about live albums, this thing is just
One of the greats. It's up there. It's up there with Unleashed in the East too.
What's crazy, Jason, is I'd never listened to this album until this last couple of weeks. I'd heard a couple versions, a couple of songs from the album, on compilations, but I'd never listened to it. But I'd always, with him, I kind of wrote him off early on, and that carried on throughout my whole life. Like my neighbor loves Ted Nugent. He's seen Ted Nugent. He saw him open for Kiss, and he was like, after Ted Nugent, I could have left because I didn't see Kiss because he put him to shame. But it was one of those things for me getting into music. I remember, I think around that time, the album was "If You Can't Lick 'Em, Lick 'Em."
If you can't lick 'em,
And even at that age, it's something about the album cover. It turned me off. And then I'd see pictures of him, and I hated that fat body, whatever his guitar was. I didn't like the look because image was a part of it, for me growing up, and that just was one of those things. And then later on, I'll admit, the politics got in, and I was just kind of like, whatever. And my neighbor has for years, for now decades, been telling me Ted Nugent, Ted Nugent, Ted Nugent, and a lot of those songs because you've heard them and they're good. I mean, hell, I was in a band in 8th grade that did Cat Scratch Fever, so I knew it back then, but I just something about it. But it's one of those, listening to it now, the musicianship of that backing band that he's got too is fucking crazy. I mean, they are tight.
That's the thing, man. Derek St. Holmes is
the singer. I mean, he sings half the tunes, and
a lot of people don't know that, man.
The classic lineup, the classic Ted Nugent lineup. Rob Grange on bass, Cliff Davies as the drummer, and Derek St. Holmes as the rhythm guitar players.
Derek St. Holmes still sounds good to this day. And
I was gonna say that too, Patrick. Like noticing his guitar, it was like a hollow body guitar, which is not
with the it had the
it's a hollow body guitar, which is not like a rock and roll style guitar.
Almost like just a BB King guitar.
It's a Gibson Birdland that I think he plays. The band Nashville Pussy got their name from Double Live Gonzo. From
I was gonna say that because I listened to that today when he said what was that? What song was
it?
Wang Dang Sweet Poontang.
Wang Dang Sweet Poontang. I want to hear for that Nashville Pussy. I'm like, did Nashville Pussy get their name from that? They must have.
They did.
Dude, he is such an amazing guitarist, and he will never ever be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because of his political bullshit.
His political views. Yep.
And it's a shame because not only with his stuff, but with the Amboy Dukes, if you can find interviews where he's only talking about music, they're amazing. They're few and far between, but they're amazing. I love how he talks about stuff. But that live album, everything on it is absolutely perfect. And it ends with Motor City Madhouse. And I mean, it is just raucous 100%. That's why they call him Sweaty Teddy.
Yeah, Uncle Teddy, Sweaty Teddy.
The Nuge.
The Nuge.
I think it's funny. He's actually more known. He's more known for now as a bow hunter than a guitar player.
Yeah.
But I will say this: like, if I ever hear
him doing that,
if I ever hear Stranglehold on the radio, it always stays on because it's like one of those. Every time I hear it, I'm like, I should check him out a little more because I know that's for Ted Nugent fans. That's probably one of those overplayed classics or whatever. But it's just like, whenever I hear that song, I got to listen to the whole thing because it's so fucking perfect.
Man, you got to get Free for All, the song Hammer Down, Street Rats. Meatloaf is on. Guess
one of his I don't know what era this is. It would probably be 80s, but I like that song. Is it Fred Bear?
Fred Bear, no, is on Spirit of the Wild. That's like 95. That's a fan.
Yeah, but I love that song. Whenever I've heard it, I've been like,
it's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Awesome. And I think it was written for an older gentleman that he used to hunt with. And I guess his nickname was Fred Bear. Yeah. Yeah, that's a killer. Probably his only good song he wrote in the 90s.
Well,
I'm
Jason,
definitely going to go check out the 70s stuff.
Yeah,
Like, I'll
but-
probably end up just going out and buying.
Oh, yeah.
It's all dirt cheap on Amazon, man.
Yeah, I know those are like those $6.99 CDs or whatever.
I think they might even be $4.99 at this point. So
It'll offset the Fu Manchu shipping, for me.
this
Jason, don't feel bad about the politics. Don't feel bad about Ted Nugent's politics because I brought up a Nocturnal Mortem album. So.
Yeah. When you get into these, I still like these.
Yeah, you can pass on that one.
They're just.
I will.
That's the last one you will buy.
I did like him in Miami Vice. I did like him in Miami Vice because he was perfect for, I think it was one episode, maybe two or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was the bad drug lord.
Yeah, the bad boat, the boat runner. Yeah. Yeah, but Patrick, you'll go from the eponymous debut in '75, and you'll go up to Weekend Warriors. And then if you,
so you're telling me to start instead of like you starting at the end and working back, start at the front and then have a definitive stopping point.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go up till in case you can't lick 'em, since that was the album that turned me off just by looking at the cover.
Well, the self-titled one, I think it was like 80, 81, something like that. Carmine Appice was the drummer. And I watched an interview where Carmine was talking about it. He said it just fell apart. It was just not. People don't really talk about those 80s albums. I don't mind some of the stuff. I think some of the stuff's really bad.
it is.
I absolutely worship those two Damn Yankees albums. I don't give a shit what people say about them.
I like the first one.
Yeah, I think they're excellent. He's just a great player, man. If you listen to that 70s stuff and just his ability, I mean, the guy's phenomenal. Especially Double Live Gonzo was like for anybody getting into guitar, it's like.
Yeah, I think that one song, Fred Bear, is on Spirit of the Wild. It's either 94 or 95. But yeah, that'll be the only album you really need by Ted in the 90s.
Very cool. Well, round it out with mine. That's absolutely not a metal album, but I
love the pick. I love it.
Wow. Well, yeah, I was going back to trying to go as early as I could. Still have my dad's vinyl. This album taught me everything about
Totally
melody, harmony, songwriting, acoustic guitar playing, writing lyrics. Not that I write lyrics, but the one half of it is all acoustic, and then it busts out into just awesome guitar jams. One song very near and dear to my heart because it's my alma mater from Kent State University that I took Nick to. So he saw where the Kent State 4 were shot. It's in a parking lot, so they have like little lights that stick up. You can't park there, but they're kind of scattered around, and that's where the people died. They still have the bullet holes and stuff. I drove Nick out there when he came to visit, and this is my dad's copy.
awesome.
Got the ring wear on it, but
Ring, yeah.
the records are
Yep.
but man, this even has like Busting It Out. It's got still has a lyric sheet in it. I listened to this album so much. Everything about it, man. Long Time Gone, Southern, all the electric stuff. Carry On is just amazing. But David Crosby, a lot of people probably don't know this. I love Neil Young. I love Graham Nash. Stephen Stills is like one of the best acoustic guitar players I've ever heard. But David Crosby to me he's just the shit vocally. And his songs on here are incredible, like Laughing. I love it. And Teach Your Children, Cowgirl in the Sand. I mean, it's everything about that band was just so perfect. In Crosby, Stills and Nash, I have, those albums, and they're good, but with Neil Young, it kind of gave him that little bit of a punch to it.
That's what I was going to say. Totally was going to say, like, Crosby, Stills, Nash are great, but Neil Young is such a exceptional, once in a lifetime player.
Mm-hmm.
Anything Neil Young touches makes it better.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean,
yeah.
I worship that guy, and so when they became and Young, that's when I can get into that band for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Incredible player. His vocal abilities, lyricism, just took that band to the next level for sure.
Yeah, his guitar playing is so fun. I just got a live album of his, Neil Young and Crazy Horse, but it was recorded back in '90. I think it's called Live from the Rust Bucket or something. It's around here somewhere, but it's so good, and his guitar is so heavy and fuzzed out. And he was kind of like the guy in the band. The other three, I mean, Graham Nash was in, I think, the Hollies, and then Stephen Stills, Buffalo Springfield. You had David Crosby was in the Byrds. So there's like this more, and I love the Byrds. I love Buffalo Springfield.
Yeah. So Crosby, Stills, and Nash, from what I was reading, they're a super group.
Yeah.
It's like the first super group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think maybe they were put together by that guy, Ahmet Erdogan, who was kind of like the big record guru back in the day. I think it could either be that or Clive Davis, or I can't remember. But when Young came in, that's when, like Nick said, that's when things got awesome. And I do like the Crosby, Stills, Nash stuff, but having Neil Young just kind of added that extra punch to it. This album I listened to almost every single night, doing the dishes after. It was like this, Van Halen, Women and Children First, those Journey albums. I listened to all that stuff that, my dad had in his collection. And this got me into Neil Young. It got me into David Crosby. And like I said, the vocal melodies on it, for me personally, I've never heard anything better. The guy that recently, I always thought, man, there's really nobody songwriting wise that's like a singer songwriter that hits me as hard as like David Crosby or any of these other guys, except for recently, within the past like 10 years, is Ryan Adams, which I know Nick is in.
Ryan Adams is amazing.
And
I got to see him live a couple times. He's fucking great. Yeah,
and I've never seen him live, but he gives me the same feeling, and he does a couple Maiden, he does Wasted Years Maiden cover, which is excellent. But he's, to me, in that vein. And so that's why I was like, you know what, I could pick another metal album, I could pick something, but I figured I just wanted to share with you guys, Four-Way Street, which is
that's
an absolute classic.
Kip, it's a great pick. I mean, for me, that's total FM radio staple out here in KLOS. I mean, you'll hear Crosby, Stills, and Nash. You'll hear Teach Your Children, Cinnamon Girl, Love the One You're With, Southern Man, Carry On. Those are staple songs. That album sold 4 million copies in 1971. Hits number 1 on the charts that year. And is there any other album? And I kind of read the liner notes. Those songs are recorded in LA and New York and Chicago, the big 3 cities.
Mm-hmm.
Is there another? I can't think of one. Is there another live album that's ever been created that took the tapes from live shows?
It was I think the Bitter End live album from it was Tacoma, Tequila, and maybe Olympia, or was it Tumwater?
They did on Alaska. On Alaska.
You should have said Walla Walla. That would have totally been
that's the eastern side of the eastern side of the state.
Yeah. Well, Jason, Maiden, a real live one, a real dead one, are in all different cities.
I think that I think,
Well, the Nugent one is different shows too, right?
I
Yeah,
think,
it's
yeah.
in obviously in Nashville and in I think Houston and Dallas, and then I think Stormtrooping was recorded in Seattle.
Hmm.
But no LA, New York, Chicago for Sweaty Teddy.
This is just I'm a big hippie at heart, even though I don't dress or look like it, but a lot of 60s.
Who wants to?
Yeah. But I mean, my Birds collection is like this, like Crosby, Neil Young. I mean, I still buy Neil Young albums to this day. Anything that's like that, I mean, I jump on, and something about that whole era. I love the kind of psychedelic hippie folk. I've always loved that stuff. So
I can easily see myself buying that live album and
Yeah, definitely. It's
putting
like,
it into the collection. It's
because like I don't know any
Historic.
Crosby, Stills and Nash albums, you know.
Mhm.
And Neil Young has such like a vast discography. It's only been in the last few years that I've been trying to slowly wade through it, and that's hard because to me there's some real good stuff, and then there's some stuff that I can't get into. So it's just like it's cumbersome, but it's like listening to this. The second Neil Young came on it, that got me hooked, and I was like, okay, I'm into this.
the
And I
Neil Young stuff, you want to stay away from like the 80s, kind of the middle. There's some really bad albums, at least in my opinion. And it wasn't until,
like the Pearl Jam revival.
well, it was even before that. There's an album called Freedom, which is great. That kind of starts it. There was like this big jump with like the Allman Brothers.
rocking in a free world.
Yeah, like a lot of these bands started coming back and putting really solid albums out. And the Neil Young and Crazy Horse did Ragged Glory, and that's awesome. Mirrorball's the one they did with Pearl Jam, which was,
Right.
Actually one of my honorable mentions was that one. But that's the one that they're on. Most of his stuff is hit, but there's misses here and there that you can just be like,
But it's so huge. I mean, it's like
it's ridiculous.
him and then the Neil Young and Crazy Horse. It's like just searching for what albums are under what moniker is like,
Yeah.
the playlist is hundreds of songs,
Yeah. Yeah. So I can definitely help you through that because I got you can ask me questions on it and I'll tell you which ones I like and which ones I kind of stay away from. But
All right. Well, we should blow through our honorables because we're 3 hours in now.
I'll do mine. I don't give a shit, man. I'm having fun and
Oh man, no, that's the thing. That's the thing. We can easily go another 2 hours.
yeah. I'll do my
That's the great
honorables
thing
really
about
quick.
it.
I can do on taking my namesake from the board, and that's The Devil's Blood, Voodoo Dust, one of the tracks on here.
Jason, we played you that song on the way to Prague Power once, Voodoo Dust.
Okay.
Really,
And you were amazed at how nice the Georgia rest areas were. It was that trip.
Well, yeah,
You're like, oh my God, this is nice. And it was a pile of shit. So California must have shitty rest.
Oh, you don't even want to know, Pat. Compared, yeah,
Yeah. Because
yeah.
that's another one.
The Last Command.
That's another one. Buddy of mine gave me The Last Command, and I actually busted out the one that when I worked at that record store, Randy Piper showed up, the guitar player, and the guy was like, "You're a big Wasp fan, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "That was Randy Piper." The fuck's he doing in Akron? I was like, "Get out of here. It's not Randy Piper." He's like, "Yeah, dude."
It was the Rubber Festival. It was there for the Rubber Fest.
But
Rubber Bowl.
I ran
I
into
would've-
the parking
I
lot.
would have turned around and said, I prefer Andre the Giant anyway.
Yeah, but I ran out and I was like, "Are you Randy Piper?" And he turned around and I knew instantly it was him. And I felt bad, man. His car looked like a piece of shit and it was kind of run down. I remember he bought a Johnny Lang album, and I said, "No offense, but what are you doing in Akron?" And he lived in Cincinnati at the time. He had some friends that lived up in Akron, and I was like, dude, can I get you to sign something? He signed a few of them. He was like, yeah, absolutely. I ran in, grabbed him off the shelf, never paid for him. Totally forgot about it. I ripped them open, and this was the remaster. I brought it out, and he looked at it and went, that motherfucker, and just lost it. He was like, fucking Blackie, taking money. He was like, I don't see a dime from this. And I went, dude, I'm sorry, you don't have to sign it. And he was like, no, man, it's totally fine. He was like, Blackie Lawless is a literal piece of shit. And I just went, oh, sorry. We talked for a little bit, and he was a good guy, but this is another one. Testament Low. Just got a couple more. This was going to be my fifth.
Oh,
Ministry.
terrible thing to taste.
Had to go with Down. I bought this exact copy the day I was leaving Portland. The day I was leaving. There's a what is that mall right there in Beaverton?
Washington Square?
Yes. There was a Camelot or whatever it was. Yeah, I think it was Camelot. I went in there and bought Down. I just saw a sticker on it. Pepper Keenan, Kirk from Crowbar, Phil, and I was like, I don't even fucking know. I just saw that on the back of it's mine.
Yep.
And then that's my last one, Love by The Cult.
That's a band that I need to start listening to again.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I just know the radio hits. I need to listen to the deeper cuts of The Cult.
I'm sure Patrick knows way more about The Cult than I know about them, but
Jason, if you get Love, Electric, and Sonic Temple, you'll be set. And then from there, work out. If those three do it for you, go in either direction and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are mine.
I'll bust through mine real quick. Any of these I could have talked about for this whole thing. Agalock the Mantle.
Very cool.
I mean, I moved to Portland in 1999. This came out in like 2001, I think, 2002. And inside the whole booklet is like photos of like downtown Portland when I was going to Portland State University. Like, oh, I've been down this so many times. There's just a great local fucking band, and then they blew up after this. It was kind of cool again. Like,
with the glare on Nick's face from the monitor, doesn't he look like he's in Old Man's Child?
Moonsaru, Boimasa Yakuni Yasta.
No,
again, folk metal
got,
shit. Like the first time I heard accordion in black metal, changed my life. Best Moonsaru album.
That a Gallic album? That's Ted Nugent's favorite album cover.
Agalock, you mean?
Yeah, the Mantle. That's Ted Nugent's favorite cover.
The deer on elk, whatever. That
Rhapsody,
great.
Rhapsody, Symphony of the Shadowlands, because once again, classical music. Just first time I heard this, power metal with violin and shit.
Neoclassical power metal.
Yeah, like it's power metal with like violin going on and just choirs and harpsichord and shit. Amazing. Primordial. Gathering Wilderness. The song Coffin Ships is a top 10 song of all time. If you don't like the Coffin Ships, rotten hell. And lastly,
wait, let me write that down.
Yeah.
I'm writing
Lastly,
that one
Blind
down.
Guardian, Nightfall, Middle Earth. Just there's the orchestrations, the layering of the vocals. Just was that what? Was it the 2001 album? Or is that 98? Shit, I got it in 2001. Just
is that where you start?
I didn't know what music could do until I heard that album.
Is that where you start with? Is that where you start with Blind Guardian?
Yeah, that was the first Blind Guardian album I heard. Was Nightfall. Incredible.
Cool.
Wait, did Pat do his albums?
Okay, honorable mentions real quick.
Yes.
We got another live album, Ozzy Osbourne, Speak of the Devil. That was my first real intro into Black Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Metallica, Ride the Lightning. Don't need to say anything about that. Power Slave, already been talked about. Corrosion of Conformity, Deliverance.
Nice.
Agalock, The Mantle was in there. While Heaven Wept, Of Empires Forlorn.
All right, Required Fields.
What?
Okay, required fields.
Yeah, do it.
This one is well have and wept. Sorry.
I can thank you for those, Pat. You sent me those 2 albums and
Yeah.
awesome.
And last quick one was Cody Jinks, Less Wise.
I'll have to check that out. I know I've heard some of the stuff. I know we talked about it before, but which one is it?
Less Wise, his
That's
debut.
wise.
Yeah.
Actually, Pat sent me that album, and I actually play on Wednesdays before classes start. Every day has a different. I'm blinded. Every day has a different theme. So Wednesdays are Western Wednesdays. So I always play loud and heavy because I think that song's fantastic for the students. Of course, they just listen. They rarely make any comments. But yeah, I kind of like the Cody Jinks, and I do like Chris Stapleton. But yeah, I'm even starting to listen to like country now.
I'm limited to about 6 people, and that's it.
Right there. Little Willie Nelson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. Which one do I want to talk about first? I want to talk about this one. Dale Drazen, my high school buddy, will love this one. The Kings of Punk Rock. The Ramones, Road to Ruin. Perfect punk. Love it. I'm really not a punk aficionado. But I mean, I like your Bad Brains, Social D. That's good stuff. But I don't know what it is. I don't care for the Sex Pistols. I don't think they only have one album, right? And everybody talks to them. What's the deal with the Sex Pistols?
No one knows.
Tremendously overrated.
Big Steve Jones guy is a guitar player though, so if you like the Cult mixed with Steve, this is incredible. Anyway.
Okay. My favorite band of all time. This is the album I heard first from them. I Gotta Go Moving Pictures. Classic album. Not my favorite Rush, but it's their most successful one. Which one should I go next? I'll go with this one. If I was a guitar player, this is the guy who I'd want to sound like besides Tony McAlpine. If I can play like Tony McAlpine and Jim Matheos, I would be a pretty damn good guitar player. So Fate's Warning, Awaken the Guardian. As far as prog metal goes, I think this is the one. This is the pinnacle. Everybody talks about Queensryche. Everybody talks about Dream Theater. This is the band that has just niched a 36, 37-year career. They just put out their last album and they quietly retired. So, yeah, that one. And then the one that reminds me of, I hate to say it, Nick, there's one song on here that reminds me of my divorce and where I was mentally. And I've talked about it before.
Nice.
You got two required fields tonight.
Yeah. So Amorphous Queen of Time. Like I said, I'm listening to this band backwards. If anybody cares, track number 5 is called Wrong Direction. And when I first heard that song, I just kind of stopped, and then I listened to it again and I actually broke down because the lyrics just kind of remind me of my life of the last, 12, 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's a deep album when I hit you like that.
Jason, the only time I've seen you deeper than that was when I was inside your butthole.
And that was definitely the wrong direction.
Super deep.
Yeah.
I've never seen you so deep.
Now I know why I was in tears.
It's definitely
But you're in tires.
Tires.
well, this is it's a record. I think it's the longest.
Yeah, we're at what, 3 hours?
3.5. I don't give a shit. It's a good
God.
one. Take people a couple of days. But it's like I said before, guys, this is like
So much
you know,
fun.
we
It's
do
just
these.
fun.
When I did the horror episode the other night, we cut it down to 3 each. Only because I know those guys really well, and I know that if we would have done 5 or 10 each, we would have been there.
You'd been there for 6 hours.
Yeah. So, no, this is excellent. I mean, I really hope you guys want to do more of these, and I'm having a blast. And
So am I.
so,
Why? I should have talked about Moonstar here. God damn it! Hate that. I should have had you guys listen to that. So many good albums. So many good albums.
I do have Kip. I do have one addendum to my Zeke pick.
what?
Every time I play that record, I skip the Kiss cover because I hate it. I hate the Kiss version and I hate the Zeke version.
What's that album, Pat?
You're
What's the
saying
name of
Kiss
that
sucks?
album?
The album is Kicked in the Teeth, but they do Shout It Out Loud on that. And they do some great covers over their career, but that song for some reason has always gotten under my skin.
I don't mind the song, but I can't stand that they say shout it out loud for like 72 minutes straight. It's like, all right, we get it. But I can do a whole 4-hour episode on Kiss.
I'm busy that night.
I was gonna say I can be up here in the upper right-hand corner, thinking about Nick.
I think let's figure out what the next episode is going to be. And I think I got a couple coming up with, my other buddies. I think Arn and I are going to do best comeback albums, our favorite metal comeback albums. And I got some other things in the pipeline with Justin and whatnot. But let's think of another good episode if you guys want to, like, another good topic. I know, Jason, you came up with life-changing albums, or?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's great. But yeah, I mean, it's long, but it's awesome. I don't give a shit. It's funny because like we're going to cut down the choices, so it'll be shorter. The other one was 2.5 hours. I kept looking at the time and I'm just laughing inside like, holy shit, 3.5 hours long.
3.5 hours.
But yeah, I mean, thanks for doing this. Thanks for Pat for coming on, and I'll get this up and running here within several days, and
Might break the internet.
On the internet, on the YouTube,
buffering.
Yeah, and but yeah, I mean, people who wanna, if you enjoy it, just subscribe, and we're gonna try to get more of these up, and yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for checking us out and listening. So,
all right, boys.
All right, boys.
I'm gonna go get some dinner.
Later.